Let's go to our 2025 bold predictions, shall we? And then we've had Lewis and Jan on us since the breaking of the new year. Jan, what are you going to give us?
I gave two
Okay.
away. That Liverpool will win at least 3 trophies this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair. Maybe not so bold at the moment. And I also said that Bayer Leverkusen will win the German Bundesliga for the second year in a row.
That's your heart talking in it, Jan. You want a title race?
No. I can go to a court and I will be a great lawyer for that. Because I think the company has shown that he's steadied the ship. But if you see how many points compared with last season and so on, I can see Leverkusen doing that. Leverkusen, if they're second or third, everybody say, yeah, well done. All the pressure on Bayern Munich. So that's my 2 bold predictions.
I like that. Bayer Leverkusen to win the Bundesliga. Luis, what have you got for us?
Actually, it's not the way that it looks is not that kind of bold, but I think that I would like to see something like that. There is Mo Salah winning the Ballon d'Or. He hasn't been in the conversations lately. We've been talking a lot about Rodri, about Vini Jr., Lamine Yamal, introduction of him as a possible Ballon d'Or winner, and no one is talking about Mo Salah and what he's been doing. 17 goals, 13 assists so far this season. He have the chance of winning the Premier League, the Champions League, and being one of the most important players in Europe. At least he is one of the best in form at the moment. So yeah, I would like to see him just lifting that trophy.
Yeah, no international tournament, of course, in the summer as well, so you won't have any sort of influence there. He is odds-on favourite, actually, to win the Ballon d'Or, and I think you can see why.
Is that why
considering
Vinicius was as angry today? Did somebody, like some sort of carrier...
Someone showed some bookies.
Some carrier pigeon come in and tell him he's not going to win it.
You got bold prediction? Anything you want to share?
Not really.
That's a surprise.
I would say it's not really bold, but I'm going to throw this out there that as tedious as they are at times, my bold prediction is that Atleti are going to supersede Barca and Real Madrid and win La Liga this year.
Oh, that is quite a bold prediction, Craig. Most definitely.
And as the Athletic correspondent, along with Luis and 1 or 2 others,
who
had to sit and suffer through a lot of their games.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they can. I think there's a little smidge of a chance that they can do it.
Oh, look at you. So then Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. Given what happened yesterday, of course, on the South Coast, Liverpool beating Bournemouth, this was a significant result for Arsenal. I think it's fair to say if they had lost this game or indeed drawn it, then the title race was all but Liverpool's. 6 points then separate the top 2. Liverpool, of course, still have that game in hand against Everton at Goodison. Let's welcome in, shall we? Frank Leboeuf joins us.
I think it's only fair, though, that... It's only fair that...
You start with Nedum.
That Nedum has the first...
What do you mean?
That's why he's dressed in black.
Well, I did see yesterday. I did see a bit of yesterday's show where, in all fairness, he did go for an Arsenal win.
Everyone for an Arsenal win.
Yeah.
But
I tried the jinx, didn't work.
But they double bluff 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1. And
the floor is yours.
Where would you like me to begin?
Well, I think what we talk about is just the game overall, which was actually, you didn't have a horse in the race, was a fun match. It was a fun match to watch.
Yeah, I think it was. And for probably 60 minutes, maybe it felt like the 2 sides were equal. But I think what Guardiola was saying after the game about how the team capitulated, I think that's what we saw from Arsenal. Arsenal basically pressed every time they put Man City under pressure. It seemed to get an opportunity for it. And then City's heads, it seemed like they were going down, which is really surprising. And I think from my perspective as somebody who wasn't a neutral, that yeah, you can lose a game. But to lose a game in that manner, I think at times you sort of wonder, well, do they trust each other anymore? Like, you need to be out there. You need to be able to fight to get something from the game. And at 2-1, in fact, I'll tell a lie. When it was 1-1, I thought, great, this game's going to be something. Oh, no, hang on, it's 2-1.
Yeah.
And it comes from a mistake again. And for the way that they sort of capitulated after that, it's embarrassing, and they're right to apologise to the fans for it.
The way I saw how City were... I think City looked better at times because Arsenal allowed them to. Whenever Arsenal pressed, and I found it strange at times during the game that Arsenal, having had so much success with the pressing, sat back, and ultimately they'll be vindicated now, they'll say that was the right tactic, but they sat back and allowed City some easier possession. I don't think it was the fact that Man City played great. I think Arsenal said to them several times during the game, OK, we're going to sit in here. We pressed you early on, we got a goal. We're going to sit in. Let's see what you got. And I think that allowed Man City to build a little bit of possession without really creating a lot of chances. But whenever this Arsenal side did press, City struggled.
Every time.
And that's why I was surprised at times they allowed, particularly in the first half, as it wore on, Man City a little bit more easy possession. It used to be you could press City like Arsenal did early and they just play through you. And then everybody would have second thoughts and go, all right, let's backtrack because we've pressed them and they've beat it easy. They're struggling to beat that press now. But Arsenal played a patient game. If you're looking at City, you're looking at decision making. You know, the pass to Akanji very early on. You know, the form and certainly the performance of Phil Foden. I felt sorry for Kovacic. He didn't have his best game, but who's he got? Bernardo Silva's not really. I mean, he's all over the place, Bernardo Silva. He's working hard, he's filling in. He's not a natural in there, and I felt sorry for Kovacic in the sense that he didn't have a natural midfielder in there alongside him. And I said last week, up to this game, Arsenal are going to be really strong in the middle of the park because they've got legs in there, they've got physicality, they've got passers. And that's an area City are struggling. And as the game wore on, in fact, I don't know what you thought, Nathan, but the last 10 minutes or so, with all those Olays, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. For a team containing those players who've achieved everything they have during their time at the club.
Yeah, absolutely. It is embarrassing because they've been there so many times before. They've played in bigger games than that before. They've played under more hostile conditions. Like we've seen them go and have 10 players in certain situations and muster up more of a fight than that. So I think the fact that he sort of played into Arsenal's hands and you could hear that, you could hear the Olays. This isn't an Arsenal side that are top of the division. This is an Arsenal side trying to chase somebody else. This is an Arsenal side who have key players missing at this moment in time as well. So it is alarming. I think John Stones himself after the game was apologising to the fans because he knows that they crossed the line in terms of how that game finished. Because you need to find a way to still be competitive. Because now, as you showed the table before, their goal difference is the same as all the other teams right behind them. Conceding 5 goals, a Man City side who are current champions of the Premier League. Completely unacceptable.
I think one of the reasons talking about Phil Foden, and maybe there's a few others, why City gave the ball away as much as they did. When City were at their pomp, every player that had the ball pretty much had 2 or 3 options, maybe more, because the rotation and the positions they were taking. And now they haven't got that, and so players are having to take, like Foden, I saw him a couple of times taking a second touch, a third touch, a fourth touch, because that pass isn't there, and then Arsenal are getting in. And
why is that pass not there? What's changed?
Just the options. When you're low in confidence, when you start doubting how you got there in the first place, when results are going against you, the movement is just not there like it was. And so, as I said before, they could always play these little passes. You know, you couldn't get close to them. You could not get close to them. Now they're all taking 2 and 3 touches, or they're having to run with the ball because those options are not as good as they were. And that's an issue for them. But you know, I think this season for City, I mean, we were talking about the Real Madrid game. I know Real Madrid weren't much.
Yeah, they lost against Spain. It could be 5-5.
I was actually thinking during this game, this Real Madrid City game might not be too bad, but when you look at City defensively at the moment, it's a struggle.
Frank, what was really interesting, and I think kind of the pivotal point within this game, obviously, is when Haaland scored at 1-1. You thought, okay, here we go. Where is this going to finish? In which direction it's going to take? And obviously, within those 2 minutes, Foden gives the ball away. Partey's shot ends up in the back of the net, and from then on, you could just see City drop and kind of Arsenal puff their chests out.
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy because, like Guardiola said and Needham alluded, for an hour, City were there, and without Raya, they could have been leading the game half-time. But it's true that after that they scored the goal, you say, okay, well, it's going to be interesting. And the second goal and the Foden mistake closed the game in a way. Because when you make a mistake once, that's okay. You come back, it's okay. But a minute after you score, somebody else makes another mistake and you concede a goal. I mean, it's a slap in the face. So, and after you concede a third goal by Lewis Kelly, a beautiful goal, it's over. It's over, and you can be the best player in the world. You know you're going to put your face down, and you're going to struggle. And it's not physically for me. It's only mentally that they went down because they fed up of making mistakes. I think Guardiola made kind of a record with 8 mistakes, errors. We allowed the other team to win, and that's the problem with City. They're slow. They play kind of a handball. We know them. They don't surprise anybody. Other teams are ready, and they don't. Therefore, they don't do anything. And this year, it's a really off season for them because of the thing that they used to do. They don't do anymore. But it's not physical.
Even after that,
for me, it's there.
Even after that goal, that's when Arsenal sat back a little bit, which is quite strange. But unless you can think of too many, the David Raya save came from a corner kick.
Yes.
The Gvardiol header. There was 20 minutes on the clock, and I don't think they'd been one Mateus Nunes down the right side, offside away from being near the Arsenal box. So they had some possession.
Yes.
But they hadn't hardly been inside Arsenal's penalty area, and I don't remember too many times.
There was a long period, wasn't there? Obviously, the commentators were saying Haaland hadn't touched the ball since the 4th minute. You know, they're kind of talking about the fact that there was no penetration within that final third.
And there was a bit of possession, but there was absolutely nothing in the final third, which is completely... OK, this season there's been more of that, but this is just completely against what this team have done for 4 or 5 years.
How much responsibility should Pep take for today?
Well, ultimately, the buck's going to stop with him. You know, performances, results, mistakes, personnel, team selection, all that sort of stuff. But I can't believe I still can't believe we're sitting here having these conversations, which we've been having now for quite some time about Man City. I can't believe I don't think I've seen a team, really don't think I've seen a team that have been so commanding that they were almost every team in Europe were frightened to play them. To have sort of morphed back into this, anybody can beat them. I don't think we've all seen gradual declines.
Yeah,
but this has been so fast. It has been incredible. My point is, how many chances, apart from the Haaland goal, how many chances did City actually create as that game went on? So it's not just one end of the field, it's kind of the other as well.
I think that's fair. And I think, for me, I've got to reference the fact that Arsenal, defensively, are one of the best teams in the league this season. So the way that they set up in terms of how high the press was, and if the press is beaten, how quickly they get back in and the organisation that they have, they'll always make it tough for whichever team they play against. But for Man City themselves, they need to look at the fact that, you know, they didn't handle the moments in a key way. The way the game starts, conceding that goal in that manner. You know, you play the ball to Akanji, and for as much as that's an imperfect ball, he also needs to be able to make a better decision in that moment. He's got 4 Arsenal players around him, and if you look, he never really had the ball under control. So make a better decision, because this is the start of the game. Then when you take it to 1-1, like Phil Foden trying to make a progressive pass there, are you sure that's the right pass to make? Because you've just scored, so now settle the game down a little bit. Instead, he makes the mistake and they're punished again. Obviously, there's a deflection within that. But I think at times, for City, they probably played into Arsenal's strengths a bit too much. I think when you know Arsenal are going to come and they're going to press you aggressively, maybe at times you need to be able to stretch the game a bit more, force them to be more on the back foot because they've got to run back towards their own goal. But I think the balance wasn't there, and for some of those players, in the end, like, it was just too much for them the occasion.
You see everybody's prediction yesterday, and predictions are predictions.
Yeah.
We can all get them. But when you see everybody thinking along the same lines, when it's Man City, even though it's Arsenal, right? They are very strong. But City have been, they've been favourites on almost every game they've played in the last 5 years. Didn't matter who it was. Yeah, Real Madrid have beat them, but City generally have played them off the field. It's incredible to see, but I think we all felt that it was going to be an Arsenal win.
Maybe not to that manner. Not obviously.
No, and not in terms of, and not as well how comfortable it was in the end.
Go on, Frank.
It's very funny to see that Arteta had 2 options today to win against City. The one was the pressure that he put on and scored after 1 minute because of Akanji's mistakes, or maybe I would say Stone's pass, because you shouldn't give a ball like that to your teammate. I think it's kind of a poison. But after is where I disagree with Craig. I think Arsenal dropped on purpose to wait for City, because everybody knows that they do almost nothing with the ball. They just keep the ball, get possession, but don't create anything. And they open up, because then is where I agree with Craig. In the middle of the park, they had nobody but Kovacic against Partey, Rice, Odegaard. And they knew that in contre-attack they're going to kill them. They didn't even need to do that because City offered the first 2 games, but it's what happened after. And City went up and they tried, and it be smashed 3, 4, 5. So having 2 options against City That's something we didn't see for quite a while.
How bad does this make Chelsea, Frank? That's for another day. Overall, what does today tell you, if anything? What have we learned about Arsenal and their title contention?
That's the same thing. I mean, in order to win, I was watching the game in France, of course, and Robert Pires, former Arsenal player, was saying that when you win a championship, it's because first you have a striker and you have a goalkeeper. It seems that Arsenal, they have a goalkeeper. Raya showed in the first half that he was a goalkeeper. I still don't see the striker. So Havertz scored a goal today. It's a good thing, but he should have scored before kind of killing the game. So Arsenal, they're going to fight until the end, and I think they're the only one who can chase Liverpool. But Liverpool have a game in hand, and I think they're going to keep on doing that.
Those numbers are...
There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
The numbers are decent, but sometimes the stats can be a little misleading in terms of, you know, it's the games that are tight. You know, when it's all very well scoring the fourth goal, which is fine, killed the game off. Probably the game was maybe dead at 3, probably was. It's those moments in tight games which sometimes the stats don't reflect. But he did play better today. There is no doubt about that. But yeah, it's a conversation.
Tomorrow's deadline day, of course. Like,
I don't think Arsenal are going to do any business. I don't. I might be wrong, but I don't think they're going to do any business. But yeah, you know, he came through, Kai Havertz. That's all you can ask. But I like the performances of a few other players.
Back to my title challenge question.
Well, that's where I forgot. My train of thought got...
That's right, Kai Havertz popped up.
Kai Havertz popped up, and I completely
trigger word.
forgot the trigger word, and I was like, discombobulated. Where was I going to... The title. All Arsenal can do is keep Liverpool honest.
Right.
And keep the pressure on us. Now, Liverpool, and I know you guys talked about it yesterday, they could have, although they didn't, but they could have dropped points at Bournemouth, right? That was a 50-50 game. But they have big players that step up. Obviously, there was a Kluivert mess and Semenyo off the post. There was some incidents, but it wasn't a sparkling performance from Liverpool, but it was a good result against a very good side, a tricky side. So all you can do when you're in this position is keep the front runners honest. And I think what you're hoping that you can do is either play in a kick-off time ahead of them or a day ahead of them.
Right.
And get in there early and get the punch thrown first in the 3 points. And then, because this weekend it was the opposite.
Yes.
Liverpool got the result. Arsenal knew they were under even more pressure today to get that result. If you can get that, as I say, punch in first and then hand it over to Liverpool and then the cracks start to appear, all of a sudden the sort of mood changes. But they're in a position they can do no more than
And
that.
what's interesting about that point is the fact that obviously the next match for Arsenal in the Premier League, they can find themselves 9 points behind Liverpool because Liverpool will play that game in hand against Everton between now and the next round of matches.
There's a slightly different Everton now that it seems...
Yeah, most definitely at Goodison, last Merseyside derby, blah, blah, blah. Looking at it, Nadem, overall...
Just blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's it. Of
course,
we'll talk about that another time. What's interesting, what's taken some of the headlines is the beef between Haaland and Arsenal. Obviously, to stay humble at the 2-2. We've got Erling Haaland's dad, Alfie's taken to Twitter saying, this team that wins everything, not. So obviously, you know, kind of rising to the bait. What I thought was interesting, I felt...
Is Dad's getting involved?
Well, Dad's
Always
getting
involved.
What I
Good
thought,
dad.
like, people say, oh, no, he needs to focus on the game and not worry about what's going on with Gabriel. It's Haaland. Surely it doesn't affect him, does it?
No, I don't think it does. I think he's walked off the pitch today, and even though his team's lost, he has had some sort of impact, which will be spoken about.
He didn't not score more goals or have more touches because he's too busy wanting to...
I think it's okay to have beef with teams and with individuals, and that's what we saw with the fact that Gabriel runs straight to him after Arsenal scored that first goal. Like, what's the link between those two in that moment? Nothing whatsoever. But I don't mind it. I think everyone remembers the things that people say to you throughout your career, and you don't necessarily want to let it go. Maybe you shake hands afterwards and say, good game, but we'll go again. But I'm here for it. If it motivates Haaland, great. If it motivates Gabriel, even better.
I don't know why people have a bee in their bonnet about this kind of thing, because is anyone who's sort of played at any level, whether it's professional or amateur or whatever, knows that there's always a constant banter between opponents. Sometimes it gets a bit more heated and sometimes it gets a bit personal and a bit crude and a bit rude, and that's all to try and put someone off their game. It's all part of this sport. I mean, if you watch the NFL and all, it goes on. You see people, see people.
Does it put them off?
No. Should never put.
You'd need it.
No. It should never put a senior player off. I mean, obviously, if you're giving it out to a youngster, which I think generally most pros don't do, not to sort of teenagers, but senior pros that have been around the block couldn't give a stuff. In fact, it motivates you.
100%.
I'm thinking when I saw that with Haaland today again, I'm thinking, and Mum, if that's me, I'm going to give Gabriel the most horrible physical 80-odd minutes of his life now, because it's sort of in my head now. It didn't happen, but it can have an adverse effect as well.
One last thing on City. What's interesting for them is that everyone else around them is so rubbish at the moment. You can still qualify for the Champions. Like normally, City have absolutely
Plus 5.
They don't have any right really to be in a race to finish in the top.
Feels a bit harsh.
Well, I think
Feels a bit harsh.
Well, considering what we're seeing from them.
Well, if they win it, they'll be back in it.
Yeah, that's possible.
Exactly, but obviously we saw Newcastle lose. Chelsea are terrible. Bournemouth, of course, are doing well, plucky and all that sort of stuff. Villa are struggling because they're Champions League.
Yeah, you'd say it's tough to bet against Man City to finish in the top 4 or top 5 or whatever it needs to be, because some of the sides behind them...
Indictment that is of the Premier League.
You see some of the inconsistencies, like with a team like Bournemouth. They're really good right now, but is it going to continue? You're not sure. Chelsea, we speak about them all the time, the ups and the downs of that young side. And for Newcastle, we thought they're doing really, really well. Then they get destroyed by Bournemouth at home and then lose to Fulham at home as well. So it just goes to show that everyone in and around there is very inconsistent.
If West Ham beat Chelsea tomorrow,
no shot.
Yeah, this is who you've got as well, Nathan.
Yeah, it's Leighton Orient, it's the big one on the weekend.
even Leighton Orient are looking at it. Where's it at? What's that, Leighton Orient? That's a giveaway, isn't it?
You're struggling, aren't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. They're going to lose every single one of them, yeah. Sure.
Carlo Ancelotti frustrated there as his team gets nothing from their trip to Seville. Real Betis 2-1 winners. Let's hear post-game from the aforementioned Manuel Pellegrini.
Yes, with Manuel Pellegrini, congratulations on this win. What do you think it was the key of this success after needing to come from behind this Real Madrid?
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think that the key was the personality that we had from the beginning of the game to try to win our game here at home. Not only to try to have a result, a positive result, and trying just defending if we can do some counter-attacks to score a goal. I think that from the beginning we play in the same way we play against any rival that comes here to our home. And from the beginning in the end of the game, I think that we play better than Real Madrid. We have more chances to score more goals. They didn't have any clear chances except the first goal. That's why I think that we deserve these 3 points.
And just the decisions of the winter market, do you think it make a difference, this version of Anthony, Cucho Hernandez, also Isco that's returned in December?
Well, 3 very important players. I think that Anthony, we knew all about Isco, but he was coming from a long injury. Now he's playing again the same way that he knows how to do it, and he's a top player. I think Anthony also arrived in an important moment of the season, and he's demonstrating why Manchester United pay so many money for him. I'm very happy with him. Cucho is starting knowing our team, and he played also a very good game.
Big win for Pellegrini and company. They're now up to 6th, the last of the European spots in Spain. As for Real Madrid, obvious disappointment for Carlo Ancelotti, as they're now 3rd, looking up at both Atleti and Barcelona. Of course, they're going to play Atletico in the Champions League midweek. We saw there, he said if we play like they did today, they're not going to win on Tuesday. We bring in Luis Garcia, who of course played for Atleti. There we see it. If we play like this against Atletico Madrid, we will not win. Luis, it's pretty hard to argue with Carlo Ancelotti here, isn't it? Real Madrid were way off their best in this game.
Yeah, and it would have been a surprise, Ancelotti on the press conference trying to give an answer or trying to bring something different than what we saw on the field, because it was very clear that the design determination of this team today, it wasn't there. They didn't have any intention of trying to harm Real Betis. They were there because they have to, and they thought that just with enough to scoring that first goal, it was going to be enough to get the result. So it's not that they are not going to win against Atletico Madrid in midweek. It's because if they continue playing this kind of football or this kind of, or with that kind of intensity, they are not going to win any more games. They're going to struggle every single weekend because on these days everyone is playing to get something. Rayo Vallecano is going to try to get closer to European positions. And like this until the end of the season, everyone is got a lot of on the stake. So they need to improve not only on football, but the mentality, because today they were not on the field. And I'm sure that Ancelotti is going to try to bring and change that mentality for the midweek game, because after what we saw in the game after Real Madrid, between Atletico de Madrid and Athletic Club de Bilbao, it looked like a total different sport. So, yeah, they need to improve a lot if they want to continue on the race of La Liga.
What was the biggest problem for you today, Ale, with Real Madrid?
Well, Manuel Pellegrini just mentioned a word there that I think is important, that his team, Betis, showed personality. I can tell you that Real Madrid had zero personality today. Nothing. There was no substance today to Real Madrid. There was no intensity. There was no urgency, inability, and unwillingness to get close to the ball and pressure the ball all over the field. Inability and unwillingness to tackle the ball, to win duels, to run with people. No better example of that than the play that ends up being the penalty for Real Betis, where Jesus Rodriguez starts his run somewhere around midfield, runs by Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni sees him run by him, and it's like, oh, well, there he goes. And what's surprising is that we talked about it in the pregame. Mm-hmm. They are right now in a situation in which every single game they play matters. Not just Champions League against Atletico Madrid coming up, no. Every game in La Liga is critically important because they're in the middle of a title race. And to the point that Luis was making, when you watch the intensity or lack thereof of Real Madrid today, the urgency or lack thereof of Real Madrid today, as compared to what we saw from Atletico Madrid and even Athletic Club Bilbao later on in the day, one of those teams is in a title race and the other is kind of in a title race. Maybe in a title race. One is playing as if their lives depend on it, and the other one is kind of like, I don't think my life depends on this. I honestly think, from Real Madrid's perspective, to see players walking in the manner in which they were today, and I can mention Vini Jr., for example. When others were pressing the ball, he was just walking on the far side, not pressing with the rest of the group, because apparently that doesn't in any way bother him at all whatsoever. That's embarrassing. Because it's effort play. I'm not even talking about your quality as a player. I'm not talking about whether you can complete a pass from here to there. I'm talking about the very basic things that you need to do as a professional. Compete. I cannot tell you with certainty that everybody on the field for Real Madrid competed to the highest level possible. In fact, I can go the opposite way. There was no urgency. There was no fight.
There are some missing players, right? Big pieces, especially when you talk about like energy.
I don't care.
Okay, you don't care. Maybe Luis Garcia cares. When Real Madrid gets back, maybe a Jude Bellingham in midfield. Certainly an energy guy like Federico Valverde. Ceballos probably not coming back for a while, so you're not going to get him back. Does that fix these problems, or do you think the problems with Real Madrid, Luis, are much deeper than just getting some guys healthy?
No, of course, and definitely today it didn't help that the players with that bring some battle into the midfield. They were not there. Jude Bellingham or Valverde are one of those two hearts or lungs from this team, the ones who are box-to-box situation. They arrive into the last third. They are tracking back players. They bring that intensity into the midfield, so the rest is a little bit. This is like everything is contagious. Today we saw that complacency that the Real Madrid player had, it was contagious by every single one of them. As soon as you could see Vinicius complaining, then the other one, and then the other one, every single game mattered, every single point mattered, because this year, especially this year, Atletico de Madrid is ready to fight, is ready to rumble until the last minute. And we saw it today against Athletic Club de Bilbao, and we're going to see it until the last moment. There is a trophy that is going to be won by three teams, or one of those three teams, and you cannot draw points from now on. So every single game matters, not only the Champions League game that is the one that we enjoy. Today I'm not running, today I'm not bringing my best. I will do my best on the next game. So from now on, every single player of Real Madrid needs to understand that, and I'm sure that the mentality will change straight away for the midweek game against Atletico de Madrid in the Champions League.
Here's where I have a problem with the premise of just pointing at the injuries and saying, well, that solves everything for Real Madrid. You got a guy like Tchouaméni, for example, who has been playing as a center back, and there have been rumblings of him complaining that, I'm here as center back, I really want to play in the middle. Because of these injuries, Tchouaméni now gets an opportunity to play where he wants to play. And it is off his shoulder, off his back, that Jesus Rodriguez runs past him because he doesn't want to run and track back. Does that have anything to do with injuries? And the absence of Fede Valverde or the absence of Jude Bellingham? Does the starting 11 today for Real Madrid, on paper, do they look better than the starting 11 of Real Betis? Should they, at their highest level, beat Betis? Yes, they should, at their best level, when they're fully committed and fully engaged. Anything less than that brings Benito Villamarín, the stadium, into the picture, and the jumping fans, and the rain, and the environment, and the energy, and the excitement. All of those things that you're not bringing as a team, they are willing to bring. So while we can point the finger at injuries, and yes, that is factual, that they have had issues finding consistency in their starting lineup, regardless, those that get an opportunity to play, a guy like Tchouaméni, a guy like Arda Güler who comes off the bench, and the first time that he goes and touches the ball, he gets pushed off the ball as if he's not even there, right in front of Carlo Ancelotti. What kind of message do you think you're sending to your manager when you get an opportunity to play, and this is the sort of effort that you put forth? Listen, injuries, sure, we can have that discussion, but it's not the reason as to why they lost today.
Is that a dressing room fix or a manager fix, this thing you're talking about?
Well, Carlo Ancelotti.
No one ever blames Carlo Ancelotti when it comes to the personality of his teams, but that's what we're talking about.
Carlo Ancelotti made it very clear in his statement post-match that we are not going to win like this. I don't think you can be any more clear than that to your players. But now it's whether these players actually, in some way, absorb that blame, process it, and know that there is something better to come. And that they have to demand better from themselves. While we can point the finger at the manager and we can point the finger at the players, it's both of them together. This team today, after they scored their goal in what was a very good combination, I mean, it looked good, they stopped playing. That is a problem. And that is a problem that happens on the field, and that is a problem that obviously was not addressed off the field. And if it was, because Ancelotti tried to make changes, and the players that he put out there, then Arda Güler is getting pushed off the ball, and you're kind of looking around and saying, well, who else am I going to put in there? They're short in numbers because of the injuries that you talked about. He tried to look for solutions. Those solutions did not show up. The whole team didn't show up today.
Yeah, if it's not the midfield, if it's not the forward line, if it's not the defense, to your point, it's the bench, and that could be a huge part with this very busy schedule. How big a concern is that, Luis, if you're Carlo Ancelotti, when you needed something in this game, certainly from an attacking standpoint? There just weren't the options there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Ancelotti hasn't been rotating as much during the whole season. I mean, we've been expecting Arda Güler, Hendrik to get more involved during the season. I think until not long ago, there were no more than 200 meters, 300 minutes, the one that they play, both of the players, is because this is what we got. Ancelotti looks on the bench and he thinks, okay, I'm going to bring Arda Güler. It's going to bring me something different. No, I'm not making changes. Is Hendrik going to bring me something different? No, until just a week ago when he showed intensity and he brought that fantastic goal, he brought something different. Okay, but I'm sure that Ancelotti is really worried about what can I do, because if I'm the one who had to push him, I'm not playing. I'm outside. I decide what kind of players and the system. But the intensity, the mentality, the desire, the commitment that Ali is mentioning is only on the players, on the side of the players. I cannot change the personality to a player and say, now, today you are going to play at 120% or you're going to bring the intensity higher. No, that's something on the players. And if I think, okay, you're not playing well, I'm going to replace you with someone else who brings something different, there is no anymore. There is not that many players who are on the bench waiting for that opportunity, or at least willing to give something extra. So yeah, it's a big concern for Real Madrid because again, there is a game on midweek and there is another one on the weekend and there's another one on midweek, and that's going to be like this until the end of the season. And the rotation is not anymore over there because there is no replacement.
Job done very much for the hosts. Everton failed to muster a single shot on target. taking a look at what that means then at the top of the table. Liverpool re-establish then that 12-point lead with 8 matches remaining in England. Frank Leboeuf joins us. We'll be hearing from Frank in a moment. But Stevie, job done, 3 points.
Yeah, that's all that matters now. It's not about getting the cherry on the top and looking good and all the fancy footwork and creating thousands of chances and scoring lots of goals. It's about getting the result.
Yeah.
And at times you wondered if they were going to. Everton defensively did everything. Pickford stood strong. They got blocks on shots. I mean, you name it, they got it done up until that one opportunity that Jota took. But that's what it's all about. It's about the result, and Liverpool got it.
The officiating, not just for that, the officiating across the board in this game was so substandard, and I'm including the people back at Stockley Park. Was so substandard that it's actually worrying. You know, when other countries talk about, and particularly La Liga, which we cover every week, and they say, oh, this is terrible in Spain, we need to get the English referees in. You damn well don't. You damn well don't. Why were you like a cat and a hot tin roof when they have a 12-point gap at the top? Are we missing something here? We were sitting going, what are you talking?
Well, it's all right, it's okay.
I mean, they're going to do it with like a cigar.
And that's it, and that's why it's kind of difficult to go into too much analysis of this game, isn't it? It's kind of, you're just meandering towards the inevitable, and that's just the way, and fair play to Liverpool. They're the one who's
the disappointment is now that they are out of these other competitions because they're going to win this one so easy.
Yes.
It just feels like they're going to fall over the line.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from them, but I think the sooner they get there, the better.
Well, then what are you talking about?
Huh?
Then what?
The Premier League's done.
Yes,
right?
it's
It's a damn squib. It's done. Who's going to get in the 5? We know who's going to get relegated, even though Ipswich won today.
Yes.
We'll get to that. Super excited about
I don't think we will.
No, did that not make the cut?
I don't know if we will.
Give me the other ones, make the cut. I'll rip them up. So, yeah.
Frank, just take me through the challenge that we saw from Tarkowski in the sense that, is there any argument to say, yeah, it's just the momentum, though, of him winning the ball?
My concern is, you can get the ball and he gets the ball, but as soon as he has gotten the ball, he has to bend his leg, but he keeps his leg straight, just to hurt. So, therefore, on purpose, McAllister. You know, when he touches the ball, then he can go and bend his leg. He doesn't. He goes and carries on and goes for the tackle. He wants to threat. He wants to injure McAllister. That's a very bad. And I'm sorry for Tarkowski because I think he's a great defender and did 2 or 3 things today who made me thought that he was a great defender. But he was nasty. At that point, he was nasty, and it's a deserving red card, 100%.
So this is where we kind of bring in the fact that does somebody need to be at Stockley Park who has played the game? Because you three have all said exactly the same thing to me in the sense that he wanted to lay one on him. He wanted to make
It's the kind of challenge, I'm not suggesting Stevie made it, but it's the kind of challenge back in the 70s, the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s when a player was annoying you or giving you a lot of chat or you were in a bit of a scuffle with them all game. When a ball landed like that, you thought, right, I play the ball here, it's not going to be a free kick, and I'm going to wipe him out.
So Tarkowski knows exactly what he's doing, yeah?
He knows exactly what he's doing there. And let me tell you, Alexis McAllister is very lucky that his full boot wasn't planted in the ground. Because what happens in these scenarios, when you plant your studs in the ground, or your cleats, or whatever it is they wear these days, how deep they go in, is because the traction of those now, with the modern technology, is so good that the knee's got nowhere to go because it's planted in the ground, and so the only thing that can happen is the knee buckles. So he's lucky that his foot wasn't completely into the ground, McAllister, and he had some leeway from the challenge, but it was a horror show.
To answer your question, but I think it wouldn't do any harm to have a player in there, not making the decision, but just to give a little bit of advice or an insight into what a player might be thinking.
Right.
However, with this challenge, you shouldn't need to have played the game to understand, because the referees, when they're doing their training and they're taking through all the steps of what makes something a red card, my goodness, every single thing you saw in that replay has got the steps of a red card. And so you don't need to be a former professional player to understand that that's a red.
Meanwhile, Frank, David Moyes furious that the goal was given, given that Luis Diaz was offside in the build-up.
And I 100% go with him because that's Tarkowski has to tackle because he doesn't know. He knows that Diaz is offside from him, but he doesn't know where his teammates are, and it's not 100% that Diaz will be offside for everybody. So saying Diaz is not playing, is not involved in the game, it's completely wrong because if Tarkowski doesn't tackle, Diaz has two options. Either he touches the ball and he's offside, or he doesn't touch the ball and the goalkeepers get the ball back. Therefore, Jota would have never gotten the ball. That's where is my point. Diaz is part of the equation of the goal because he asked for a decision from Tarkowski. Tarkowski has to go for the tackle because of Diaz. Not because of Jota, not because of something else, because if he's on his own, he doesn't even touch the ball. If Diaz is not behind him, he doesn't touch the ball. So cancelling the fact that Diaz is behind and is not being involved, it's wrong. It's not football for me.
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to move. The law is he doesn't have to move to have impacted the defender. So it's a bit the same as you say, oh, he's not moved. But from an offside position, he has impacted the defender's ability to make a rational decision there. Tarkowski has to make a decision because he sees Diaz said, doesn't know if he's offside, even though he's not moved. It's the same thing as a player stood in front of the goalkeeper. He doesn't have to move to be deemed, getting in the goalkeeper, interfering with play. Doesn't have to be throwing himself about. If he stood there and the keeper's sort of looking around him and he stood still, and he's interfering, he's in an offside position. And in some sense, this is the same. Although Diaz has not moved, he's in an offside position, he's next to Tarkowski, the ball's going there, and the defender feels he has to play it in a certain way. So I kind of feel for Everton in that sense.
Yeah. It's Inter Milan who book a place in this year's final to face, obviously, either PSG or Arsenal. Barcelona are out. For more on this, Jurgen Klinsmann joins us. Jurgen, this is why we love the sport, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we all exhausted, I guess, like everyone in front of the TV. Imagine then the people in the stadium. It's been two semi-finals. It's two exceptional semi-finals that we witnessed. I mean, with two teams that really were going or driving each other on the edge. And what we witnessed tonight was just fantastic for every football fan to watch that. I mean, they really wrote a piece of history tonight.
Yeah, it really was something special, wasn't it?
Well, it is, because we witnessed one team on a life support machine.
Yes.
In the second half, into Milan. I don't think I've seen two strikers look as tired as that. Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram, I don't think I've seen two front men who've had injuries look as tired as that. Martinez goes off. Where the hell Thuram got his second win, his third win, his fourth win from? Because at the end, he's still throwing himself about. I've got to give these teams, these players, a lot of credit, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Barcelona died by it tonight. They're defending. I mean, they had 3-2. I get it. You've got players missing, but I'm not talking about individual defending. I'm talking about defending as a unit, as a team. And particularly in the first half, it got picked apart, that high line, right? We know that. We're always going on about it. And it kind of negated a little bit in the second half. I don't think because Barcelona changed. I think because they then started dominating the game and Inter didn't have the legs to run in behind. However, 3-2, we all sat and watched this. 3-2, they've won it. Within 60 seconds of the kickoff, they are running up to play an offside. Right? It doesn't come to anything, but I think encapsulated their mindset. They are squeezing to the halfway line when there's, minutes, seconds left to see the game out, and they're still trying to play this offside. When the goal comes, they're still trying to squeeze. They get caught. Acerbi's in an offside position because they're so high, and when the ball comes in, obviously second phase, he's onside. And that, in the end, is something we've talked about all season. Was in the biggest moment of the biggest occasions, was this kind of kamikaze defending going to cost them? And I think we got our answer tonight.
Before we get to the intricacies of where this game was won and indeed lost, Ali, just overall, you could just see at the end of the game, everybody left everything out there on the pitch.
And I think the game demanded that from everybody. You couldn't have passengers out there. You had to have everything from everybody. There are so many players that stood out tonight. And rarely in a semifinal of a Champions League do you have so many outstanding performances from both teams. Usually you'll have a team that dominate and you can say, well, look at this guy, look at that guy, look at this guy. Craig was mentioning Barella in the highlight. What about Pedri tonight? How good was he? And you think about Thuram, for example. You thought, yes, he was dead, but he ends up making the difference-making play. Mm-hmm. The game-changing play against a player in Ronald Araujo who was supposed to be fresh because he had just come off the bench, and he was Thuram, the one that is giving him a little shoulder dip, a little something, and takes him to the end line. Jan Sommer, outstanding as he might have been, he comes out, actually misses the ball, and the ball falls to Robert Lewandowski, the one guy that you would want if you're Barcelona to actually put the ball into the back of the net. There's so much to digest and to analyze in this game and to break down, and you just kind of peel a layer, and once you peel a layer, you're going to find another one. I think Barcelona should be very thankful, for many reasons, that I'm not managing this team. Because if I were, Gerard Martin and Eric Garcia would not have been on the field in the second half. And yet they're the ones that combine in order to get this team back onto the game. And Gerard Martin then gets his head up and finds the service for Daniel for the game-tying goal. I don't know what direction to go. If you're Barcelona, you're devastated. If you're Inter, obviously, you're incredibly joyous about this. All of us won because of the semifinal. And usually we don't get in semifinals of Champions League where you watch two semifinals like this and you go, give me more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The stats that we put up, if you haven't watched the game and you look at the stats, they're heavily weighted for Barcelona. But that's not the story, because we always knew, you could probably have pinned those stats up pretty much before the game. It was about the big moments, as it always was going to be, because they were always going to dominate. They were always going to create chances. Lamine Yamal was always going to be a handful, although I have to say, Inter played them much better in the first 45 minutes. They were much more aggressive with him. When DiMarco went off, he started to have a field day. I mean, he was already starting beforehand. But it's about the big moments when Dani Olmo's got his back to play, as Ali said, and DiMarco sees that. And he goes in and he shuts him down for the first goal. It's about these big moments. It's about recognising these big moments, which I think in the end, you have to say Inter did just a little bit better, recognising the big moments and taking their chances. Yeah, there was some brilliant stuff from Barcelona, particularly Lamine Yamal as the game went on, as the second half went on, and Jan Sommer was tremendous, but Inter recognised those big moments. And to be out on their feet the way they were and come back, and the changes were key for Inzaghi. He had to bring on Frattesi, he had to bring on Zielinski, Tirami, because the others were out on their feet, but they recognised these big moments, and I suppose maybe you could put some of that down to the inexperience of the Barca side. That they just continue to, and this is what sometimes as a player, I think sometimes you take it out of the hands of your manager. When it's so late in the game and you've played the same way all season, I think when experienced players are on the field, they say, listen, I know we play the offside trap and I know to do this, but there's a minute and a half left or whatever there is. You back there, we keep solidity in the midfield, we drop a little bit deeper, we don't leave any space in behind, and that's the way we're going to defend it. And that's what experienced players, I think, would do, or more experienced players. And I think what we saw was a group of players who have had an instruction from their manager all season, and it's worked very well, but we're still trying to do the same thing at the most important moment of the game, when they really should have been just switching on and saying, right, okay, lads, drop off. Let's try and see this one out.
And it wasn't just about that specific moment that you're talking about, Craig. That was very noticeable because all of us that are watching the game are like, what are they doing? That, yes, not even 60 minutes after they score the goal, they're squeezing so high. In the goal itself that they give up late, why are you 3v3 to begin with? How is that possible? Look, you want to play your high line, so be it. But get numbers in the high line. Get numbers around the attacking players from Inter. When that sequence started, it started at 3v3 in the back for Barcelona. How does that happen this late in a match? That's the part that Look, I cannot understand the highlight to begin with, late, but the fact that you don't have extra numbers to cover for something that could happen, for a deflection, for a little flick on, something that may happen that may go against you, that you're there to cover because you have the extra numbers. And that was not the case for Barcelona that late in the match. You contrast that to Inter. Late, De Vrij, ball coming in, and he's dying to win the ball. And they got numbers behind the ball. And while they did not defend all that great over the course of the 2 legs, they gave up 6 goals. We must remind ourselves. But in those last seconds, they were dying to clear the ball. They were doing whatever was necessary. Inzaghi was clearing the ball. San Siro was clearing the ball. Pepe Bergomi was clearing the ball. Everybody, Zanetti was clearing the ball from the stands. That mindset Barcelona does not have in order to finish games, when all you need to do is grind, clear it, and then you go back to Barcelona having won this, and they did not.
Experience, Jurgen, was that a big factor tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I think experience plays a role in this result, because obviously it's the small little pieces that decide such a wonderful game like tonight, and experience helps that dramatically. I mean, you need to have your players be ready to go the extra mile, to be ready to suffer, to be ready to make that decisive play in the very last second of the game, and to give your teammates always the feeling we're not giving up. I mean, it was a game of different half times. I think Inter played well the first half, then they had the lead, and then they gave the second half almost completely to Barcelona, and they controlled it. They played a fantastic game, scored beautiful goals, and then there was Jan Sommer in there for Inter that kept them. They kept them. I mean, he kept them in the game, and then still they had to believe, after their substitutions, Inter that they might have still a chance to equalize the game, and that they did that in the last second. With a tremendous amount of willingness and desire to do it, and then to give it the extra goal then in extra time, and there plays a role then experience. It plays a role that you have some guys on the field that really just want to push it through. They hammer it through. The entire stadium was going absolutely bananas, and I think that's why they maybe deserve it. And there's the other side of a fantastic Barcelona side then risks too much, as Craig said, and Ali said rightfully. They risk in the end of the game, they risk a little bit too much, where you just want to kick the ball in the stand. Just kick it out. It's just a minute to go. And Inter smells that. They go for it, and they push it. And I mean, it could have gone either way. I mean, obviously, there's no doubt about it. But those little pieces, they add up over the time of 120 minutes, and they added up. And I think that's why maybe Inter is now in the final. That's why Inter, dreams of playing that final in a couple of weeks from now in Munich. I mean, you can go it step. I mean, every play you can go through it now. When you analyze that game, and you will go nuts even if you analyze that game, saying, how could that end this way, and how could it go on this way? But I think, as Ali said, I mean, Jan Sommer played a huge role in that, and you never would talk like that over a goalkeeper that actually conceded 6 goals in 2 games now in the semifinal. But for me, he was really man of the match, especially the last one that he saved against Lamine Yamal, because that would have gone in, that curl shot, and would have finished the deal for Barcelona. But I just think emotionally it was for both sides, it was going to the extreme. They will be exhausted for 2-3 days, both teams. I don't know how you want to sleep if you're a player like that after this game. And you got to give them both huge compliments. And still, I think because of that extra piece, as Greg said, of experience, I think Inter deserves to go to the final.
They were just more clinical, weren't they? I mean, we talked about Jan Sommer making all these saves, which he did. Tell me, apart from the 4 goals, yeah. So Chesney, I'm trying to think about saves that he made. Mm-hmm. He didn't really have to, but the key moments Inter were clinical. It's a difficult game really to think about in terms of, when we covered the first game, we said, where do we start? And it's almost like the same again. Where do you start with this? Where do you start with this game? It's hard to say pinpoint players and say, he had a bad game, he had a bad game, because they gave so much.
Yes.
They gave so much, but it was patently obvious early on that it was just, and we talked about it in the show the last couple of days, they'll have looked at how many times they got in behind in Barcelona in the Montjuic, and they're going to be better at it this time. And I think you could say probably early on they were. And it was way too easy to get in behind. You know, for Inter at times. I mean, again, better balls and better decision, better run, better delivery on the ball. And they were going to get in time and time again. You're thinking, this is just crazy. And then the tiredness came out of nowhere. Oh, maybe we're looking at age.
Right.
For Inter.
Yeah.
But it was like a cliff.
Explain that to me. You guys must have played in these sort of situations where you just feel you've got nothing left in your legs, which so many of those Inter players looked like they hadn't. And I know there were substitutions, but there were still players out there at the end that played 120 minutes. But at the 70-minute mark, you thought, goodness me, they're not going to make it. Like, where does that come from?
Just desire. And the fact that sometimes you just think, right, I got no choice, I got to go again.
Right.
And they say, well, certainly in England, in the UK, we say get your second wind.
Yes.
Don't know how much of that is true and how much is not, but it looked like some of these players got their second wind.
You basically got no choice.
You got no choice. You got to roll your sleeves up. You got to dig in. And sometimes when you create a couple of chances, or you have a good effort, or your team squeezes another 10, 15, 20 yards up the field, you get a bit of confidence again. When you're getting battered, it's a bit like a boxer. When you're in the corner and you're getting battered, right, and you can't get out of that corner, it's difficult to get the energy to get out of the corner. But all of a sudden, if you land a punch, all of a sudden you think you're back in it. Yeah. And that's how it was with Inter. They just were looking for small things to get themselves back in the game, get themselves 20, 30 yards higher up the field, and really take the pressure off, because it was, as Jurgen said, it was Barcelona's half by a stretch in the second half. But they found the energy, and once it goes to extra time, both sides are tired. Changes have been made. Yeah. The epitome of it to me was Marcus Thuram. He had nothing left in the tank, it seemed, and yet he was the one, which I don't know why Inter didn't do this in regular time. And around 70 minutes, they hadn't had a kick of the ball for 10 or 15 minutes. And they're still trying to roll the ball out to their centre-halves and their wing-backs under a Barcelona press, and they can't keep it because they're so tired. And yet, in the end, their best outlet was Jan Sommer punting it forward and Thuram and his teammates scrapping for it. So I really don't know why they didn't do that more often during the second half, because that was their best avenue for getting at this Barcelona team. They realised it late because they were so tired. And then the physicality of Thuram up front was a handful for Kubasi and Martinez, and then Araujo. And the Martinez was a strange one. If he was injured, fine.
Yeah. He was on a yellow card. Does that weigh it into that decision?
He's your preferred centre-half alongside Pau Kubasi. He stated that before the game. He said, I don't want to split this partnership up. It is a risk when you're on a yellow card, but lots of defenders get on yellow cards, and it is such a big game. So unless there was an injury, Hansi Flick, I think, was overly worried about him picking up a second yellow, because that partnership has been the best partnership for Barca all season.
And it so happens that it's Ronald Araujo that gets exposed.
Yeah, he didn't have a good game coming on.
And so then you have to ask yourself the question, how come Hansi Flick is choosing to play Eddie Garcia as right back instead of Ronald Araujo as at right back, which he has played in the past and he did for Xavi many a times? Well, there is something that Hansi Flick knows that we don't know, that we don't see every day. And obviously, when you're looking at Ronald Araujo, he was kind of lumbering. As tired as Marcos Thuram was, he's running circles around him. On the point of Marcos Thuram, you just mentioned something there. You have no choice. I think this is what happened with Marcos Thuram. He was dragging his legs, and he looked like he was about to pull a hamstring or a groin or something. There was no life in those legs. And Lautaro Martinez was also dragging. And it's almost as if, like, Marcos Thuram sees as to who's about to come on, Taremi. He's like, well, I guess that's me. I'm out. And it's Lautaro that is going off. And now you're the striker and you're going, well, Taremi has come on. There's no other option. I have to do the job. There are no more excuses. Whatever pain I'm feeling right now, I have to do the job, which was different than Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan, who had ran themselves ragged. Mm-hmm. They could not chase Pedri any longer. They couldn't do it anymore. And that's when the changes of Inzaghi made a difference in giving some life.
Yeah.
Not necessarily more quality, but more life to that midfield so that they could at least advance 10 more yards and give themselves a little bit more of a chance to getting forward. But having said all that, Barcelona were still up 3-2 with 2 minutes to go.
How much credit should Inzaghi get for this result, Jurgen?
Oh, he should get huge credit. I mean, absolutely deserves it. And now, obviously, this is a dream for Inter come true, being back in the Champions League final. But I want to get back to the topic of tiredness. Tiredness for players in a game like this. You go through it several times. You're going to be exhausted after 50, 60, 70 minutes, but you keep going. The energy that is in that stadium, or in general, at that level, playing those games, the energy of the fans, the stadium, the meaningless of the game gives you so much second wins. You constantly come back. It's not a problem. You might get even cramps in between, and you shake it off and you go again and then again. And this is what you want to go through, because these games, you live for these type of games. You don't want to get off substituted in a game like that. So when Marcus Thuram saw that it's Lautaro that gets off for Taremi, I mean, it gives you the biggest smile in that moment. It says, you know what, I'm looking tired. Maybe I have my moments where I cannot sprint anymore. But I do something to this game. Maybe that comes across and I head it in. Maybe as he did, then obviously he was part of the last goal, then setting it up. And you live for these seconds that you can make a difference, even if your legs are tired. You're breathing hard, but the energy of 80,000 at San Siro will keep you going. You go. There's no problem at all. So nowadays we have big discussions, with data-driven people saying, this player should be substituted at minute 70 because he's clearly tired. We see it. He cannot make sprints anymore. He cannot do this anymore. Exceptional players such as Lautaro or Lewandowski or whatever the names are, they find always a way to get back into the game, even if they're already dead. If their legs are heavy, you never sub them out because you want them maybe make the decisive play in the 92nd minute or 95th minute or in extra time, or and that was the discussion a little bit, keep them on the field for penalty shootout. So when he subbed out Lautaro, I thought to myself, or he's injured or he's really cannot run anymore because I want to have him in my penalty shootout. Or even Mkhitaryan and Çalhanoğlu, especially Çalhanoğlu, the penalty taker. I was worried. In that moment, I was worried for Inter. I said, who's going to take the 5 penalties now if we're going to go down the road to the penalty shootout, which could have easily happened. But your leaders, your people that are capable to deal with tiredness, they can deal with the pressure and all that stuff. You want to keep them on the field until the very last moment, because the moment will come, as it was almost the moment, as Ale said, for Lewandowski. So if someone didn't get this tiny little touch on this cross, probably it's in. And then we all talk about Robert Lewandowski today, but it was not his moment, obviously, and that's how it goes. And at the end of the day, so at the end of the day, Inzaghi did everything right, everything perfect. He's going to be a hero for right now in Milan. There's no doubt about it, and they're going to dream now big about the final in a couple of weeks from now.
I'd like to have seen Lautaro Martinez, Jurgen, after 120 minutes. I mean,
absolutely.
He was toiling, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the reason that Thuram stays on, because he has the physicality and a little bit of the pace as well. But I think we've always felt that this Inter side, we're going to, not necessarily, we can choose who wins and who loses in predictions, but I think we always felt that we're going to be a real thorn in Basa's side, win or lose. And they were. I mean, they didn't defend particularly well themselves at the time. You think about a couple of cross balls and the 3 big centre-halves they have. Yep. They lost a couple of headers in both games, which is unusual, but they were always going to be a thorn in Basa's side because they're a better version of Atleti. They've got the ugly physicality, bunch of players, 6'3", 6'4", they're big and quick, but they've got good experienced players in midfield like Çalhanoğlu and Barella. Mkhitaryan struggled in the second half. And then they got physicality and goal scorers up front and Lautaro Martinez. If you think about Martinez's goal in the Allianz that time against Bayern. I mean, it was the outside of the boot. I mean, it's just incredible skill set. And yeah, they haven't got the aesthetics of Barcelona. Few do. But they have a balance about their side and a grit. And I think, on the other side of it, Inzaghi's been in there a good few years now. It's just Hansi Flick's first year. Mm-hmm. He's had to deal with a lot, and he's done a brilliant job. But if there were ever going to be a fault in this Hansi Flick side, and they're really not his signings, really, was the defence. But he himself has said, I'm prepared to take the risk to have the entertainment. Unfortunately, at 89, 90, 91 minutes of a semi-final of a Champions League, sometimes you've got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say, right, that's it, shutting up shop, see what you've got, like Inter did. Barca don't quite have that in their makeup, and arguably that's why they're not going to the final.
Jurgen, what's Hansi Flick's biggest regret going to bed tonight?
Well, a regret. I mean, it's obviously it's the result. You're so close, and then you're not going through to the final, and you go through it now as a manager, and you think, okay, I could have done this or could have done that. I mean, obviously, some of his couple of saves, kept Inter in the game in the second half. Now, if Eric Garcia there scores his second one that he had there when Sommer incredibly kind of saved it, you thought the ball is already in. Ale said, the bottom left was wide open. Yeah, if he puts it down there, game over. I don't think he has regrets, Hansi Flick. I think he will admit that I should have maybe done this or this in kind of little incidences. But he knows, and he's very experienced in that way because he's a builder. Hansi Flick is one that loves young players and loves to make them grow. And that's what he did already this year at Barcelona. He made a lot of youngsters grow into this new Barcelona side. And what he wants to do now over the next 2-3 years is make them mature even more and then go for this big trophy, go for the Champions League trophy. Obviously, they go every year for the La Liga title. But he understands that the future belongs to his group. The future belongs to this young Barcelona team. And that's why probably he thinks, maybe it's not that bad, to go out in such a dramatic way today against Inter Milan, who has more experience, who has older leaders in the team, and they were brutally determined to go somehow through this semi-final. So I think, Hansi Flick will get lots of compliments in Spain for what he's done so far. I mean, obviously, the expectations at Barcelona is as always, like the biggest clubs in the world. They want to win this Champions League title, but they played outstanding. They were pure entertainment to everyone. So yeah, I mean, he will probably have 2 or 3 beers to get over it tonight, and then he moves on.
If I can go back to something that Jurgen said earlier, and he mentioned data analysis, and our game has become very data driven. But there's no data analysis that can account for toughness,
right,
for experience, for know-how. And this is something that Inter has in bundles. In bundles. It is actually what they have more than just about every other team that is left in this competition. They have scars as well from this competition. They know what the semifinal feels like. They know what's necessary to advance. And while it could have gone either way, and had Jan Sommer not made a save here and there, what you cannot question from Inter is toughness, grind, and enjoying, to Craig's point, much like Atletico Madrid, enjoying grinding, enjoying the moment of this is going to get down and dirty, and this is where we feel most comfortable. No data analysis is going to give you that information. No data analysis is going to give you the look in the eye of Acerbi when he's making a run to go and finish the goal in the manner in which he did, and the excitement that he felt in the moment and what that meant to him. Or Bastoni making challenges late in the match. That's where you throw the data out the window. You say, give me men that are going to grind, are going to be tough, and are going to see their way through games like this.
I think regret for Hansi Flick. I think disappointment in a sense that I don't think necessarily it was the Lewandowski injury that was the issue, because Ferran Torres did a decent job and they scored 6 goals. I think the disappointment for him will be when he lost both his fullbacks. Yeah. Koundé and Balde before, and then Koundé. When he lost both his fullbacks, that was more of a problem for him than losing Lewandowski. As good as Lewandowski is, you know, they've still scored 6 goals. They've created a bunch. Summer's had to play brilliantly. But, you know, Balde's experience and Koundé's had a great season. As soon as he loses them, he's now thinking about playing players out of position. He's thinking about moving Martinez, which he did for a league game. He didn't want to do it tonight. And all of a sudden, he's having to shuffle the pack in that department where they're not particularly strong. And it's not an excuse. But I think he'll just be disappointed that at a key moment of the season, he's lost both his most experienced and arguably 2 of the best fullbacks that play the game in European football. And that ultimately was, you know, one of the big reasons that they're out of this competition.
Of course, the game's coming thick and fast, Jurgen, for Barcelona. Next up, it's the little matter of El Clasico on Sunday against Real Madrid, as you're looking to go one step closer to winning the title. How do you handle your players if you're Hansi Flick between now and then?
Well, I mean, obviously they go out of the Champions League with their heads high. I mean, they played tremendously for themselves, for their club, and they can be proud of what they did. And still they are disappointed. Still they are a little bit down tonight. But they, I mean, that's the beauty of the game, that you go always into the next match. And if your next match is Real Madrid, nothing better than that for the Barcelona team. No, he will keep it very light. I mean, they will obviously, they don't need to train any type of hard stuff. They know how to play Real. They're going to look forward to it. And now they want to win the title there in Spain. I think they're looking forward to what's coming up next in the next season. Then I think there's so much on the plate for them. It's such a young team that will grow and will mature and has so much joy ahead of themselves. You know, what we've seen from them individually has been outstanding. I think Greg is absolutely right. You know, when you lose your fullbacks, you know, so late in the season, and for these really big matches, and even Lewandowski then for a second, then it's very, very difficult to balance that out. And that's why you kind of depend on these individual pieces turning your way towards the end of the season. You know, in the beginning of the season, we talked a lot about the problems of Lautaro Martinez and some players, and they were all doubtful. We were all not happy with some of them performing. But you want them to be in their best phase towards the end of the season. You want your top players, the difference makers, coming up and just showing their qualities towards March, April, May. You know, and that's what probably happened in a better way for Inter. You know, Lautaro came back and started to score again. Thuram had then his little drop, and he came back then right on time. And you had defenders that, you know, you could kind of rely on, and you could also have double positions like you had with Di Marco on the left, and you can throw in, you know, Augusto then, and you could change players around, which maybe in that certain position Barcelona was not capable anymore to change things around. But still, I think, you know, it's been a tremendous positive season for Hansi Flick, his first year with Barcelona.
If Real Madrid hadn't been as bad as they have been this season, I would be really, really concerned about Barcelona going into El Clásico. And the reason is not so much Real Madrid, as I just mentioned. It's far more about the minutes that Barcelona have accumulated over the last couple of weeks that have been taxing minutes, heavy minutes, Copa del Rey
competitive
final.
minutes.
Yeah, competitive minutes. Stressful. Stressful physically, stressful mentally. We're talking about Copa del Rey final, 120 minutes. The 3-3 match in Barcelona, stressful. This match, stressful. Another 120 minutes. There was some stress over the weekend as well to try to come back and beat Valladolid. There's been a lot of stressful minutes physically and mentally that at some point, it's going to show up on the field. However, when you're playing Real Madrid, you have a chance.
They'll not be doing much training between now and the Clásico.
No.
But really, it'll just be about rest. And interestingly enough, to that point, do you remember in the Arsenal game with Real Madrid, where they ran, was it 12 kilometres less than Arsenal? So roughly a kilometre a man. Second leg was similar. We've seen cases this season where Ancelotti's been having a pop at Vinicius and others about their work rate. There is no excuse at the weekend. Real Madrid might lose. Barcelona will possibly outplay them. There is no excuse for Real Madrid at the weekend to be outworked. Outworked by a Barcelona team that were out on their feet tonight. They gave every ounce of blood. So whatever happens in a football parlance at the weekend happens on Sunday. But there is no excuse for Ancelotti's side to be outworked and outfought by this Barca team who've been through all these games. And just a little word on Barca because they're out of this competition. We talk about them as a young, learning, inexperienced side. To an extent, that's what they are. Although some of these youngsters have got a lot of experience. I've got to give them a lot of credit for the guts that they have. They were 2-0 down in both legs. They never, ever panicked. They never, ever let their chins hit the floor. 2-0 down in both legs. You could have mistaken some of these youngsters for mailing it in. And both times, they picked themselves up from those 2-0 deficits, home and away. They brushed themselves down and they went on to not only get themselves back in the game, but get themselves back in a great position, only to throw it away. And that's a sign of a side and a squad that believes in the manager and believes in themselves. The fact they did not pack it in where Inter both times took that lead. So in terms of going out the competition, gutted would be the word in that dressing room. Absolutely gutted. But I think Hansi Flick can be proud of the way this team went about their business. They were just undone by big moments in this big occasion.
And in case you didn't know, Lamine Yamal's still special.
5-0's about right, isn't it?
Yeah, as Ali said, you know, it could have been 7, and it was only one team. It was a lesson. It was a lesson of football. I feel a little bit for Inter Milan fans, players, and everything, because you come to the final, you want it to be memorable, and you want to leave some, you know, some memories and prides and everything, and you have nothing. I mean, that's a shame. That's a shame for them, but because of the talent of Paris Saint-Germain, and there is nothing else to do but cry at the end of the game for those players and those fans. Paris Saint-Germain were too strong. They did what they had to do. And I'm so happy for players like Marquinhos, for example. He was the only one left since they lost the first Champions League final. But what a game. And when you see doué, I just want to say to the audience, doué in French means gifted.
Nice.
So
yeah,
it says a lot. And for the young
Is that nominal
Mayalou,
determinism?
yeah, exactly.
Where you're named after, your name suits you.
Oh, wow. Well
Like
done.
if you were a butcher, for example,
Yeah,
Frank
my
Leboeuf
name
would be,
would be perfect.
Anyway,
yeah, well done. But no, you have to be happy for Mayalou, of course. You know, born in 2006. What an experience, and it makes you growing up very quickly. But they did everything they had to do. I mean, in the conservation of the ball, the positioning of the ball, the counter-attack, everything was perfect. Even at 4-0, Donnarumma had made a save.
Yep.
Everybody was spot on. There is nothing to complain about.
It's interesting, Ali. As a neutral, maybe you want a tight, exciting affair, maybe like we saw into Barcelona in the semi-final. But still, despite a fan who wants to see that, you can only admire the quality that PSG put on in this show.
It was the definition of a backside whooping.
Yeah.
And I mean a whooping by PSG. They were better in every facet of the game from very early on. There were a few sequences in the first 5 to 10 minutes in which I thought, Inter are in trouble here. The dominance of the ball by PSG through the midfield, and the many times in which Vitinha was allowed to step on the ball, turn one way, step on the ball, go the other way, step on the ball, go this way, step on the ball, go that way, and be able to then complete passes out of pressure and still maintain possession and still be creating opportunities. Inter were never close enough to PSG to impact the way that PSG were going to play. And if you allow Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz and Neves time and space to create, to pass the ball, to have possession with a purpose. And then you have the isolation and mismatches in wide areas with Doué, with Dembele, with Kvaratskhelia. Inter were never going to be able to keep up. They were sort of kind of hanging on, okay, we're going to be defensive, we're going to be behind the ball. But even behind the ball, they were allowing time and space. And it's something that we discussed yesterday in previewing this match. Do not think of Inter coming into this match as Inter of years past, that they were so very solid defensively. They have not been that at all this season, and they have not been that at all in this competition. Remember all the goals allowed against Barcelona. Remember the chances allowed against Bayern Munich. And PSG exposed all of that. All of that in every single facet of the game, in every single space on the field. PSG were significantly better than Inter What a performance.
In that manner, I'm sorry, if I can emphasize the work of somebody like Vitinha. Everybody's going to remember who scored the goal, who made the assist. Vitinha made one, gave a Super Bowl to Doué before he made the assist. But the work he does, we used to call those players warriors? Water carrier.
Oh, okay.
And because they were working in the shadow of the stars and everything, getting the ball back, giving it to the stars, Didier Deschamps was the perfect example of that, knowing exactly what he had to do. Vitinha has all the tools you need to become one of the best players in the world in that positioning, where he knows technically what he has to do. Physically, he's strong. He never gives up, gets back, get the balls back, and serves the forwards. He was the best player for me on the field today. Right. But of course, he's not going to get the player of the game because people score goals like Doué, and you want to see that. But remember, if you want to play in that position, if you're a young player, to watch what Vitinha was capable of doing in the Champions League final.
Robert, where did Luis Enrique get this so right?
Well, as PSG have done for most of the season since they started to play very well, it was the rotation in midfield, because Inter, what they do, they play zonal marking and zonal defending. So the three midfield players stay in position and they shuffle across the field. But because PSG kept on rotating their positions and finding no space down the side of Çalhanoğlu, and when they tried to get tight, they played around the pressure, it was so easy for PSG to play. They got everything right. And then when, again, Inter had to come out that little bit more in the second half and try and press the ball, then they put their wing-backs high up the field, and then PSG got it into the front players with more quality. And then the front players went past their markers so easy. There was so much space to play. They were dominant in every facet of the game. And when they were put under pressure, and Frank will know about this, the two centre-halves dropped 30 yards back and said, OK, if you're going to put us under pressure, we'll go back to the centre-halves and we'll start again. So Inter, whatever they did was the wrong thing. When they tried to press the ball, they got played around and it went into the front players. When they dropped deeper, they got played around then. So Inter were very, very poor. But you have to say, PSG got everything right. Their finishing, their movement, their speed on the counter-attack when they needed to, their passing, their one-touch, absolutely brilliant.
Very early on, and again, I go back to the sequences of Vitinha stepping on the ball. There were other things to see from Inter that were concerning right away. So they're sitting back, and they're absorbing a lot of pressure. PSG happen to lose the ball, or they shoot the ball wide, or whatever the case may be. Now is an opportunity for you to release some pressure if you're Inter. They decide to, you know what? PSG is all over us, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to play the ball short. We complete a couple of passes, and then because we cannot withstand this pressure, we then turn the ball over and give the ball right back to PSG in an attacking position. And so it's one of the things that we highlighted of Inter coming into this match that could be problematic for PSG is experience, know-how. They have been here before. They know what this feels like. It did not show at all whatsoever in their performance and the lack of understanding what the game needed at certain moments. Very early on, if you're under pressure, stop messing with the ball around here. Why turn the ball over here and you're inviting more and more pressure, more and more problems? It was surprising to see how Inter was unable to process information, to know that the game called for something else. And then the guys that were supposed to be a strength for Inter in the midfield, guys that you think that when they get on the ball, Inter becomes far more dangerous because now you can spring the counter-attacker opportunity with Marcos Thuram and Lautaro Martinez. You needed to get Barella involved. You needed to get Çalhanoğlu involved. You needed to get Mkhitaryan involved. And I'm only going to mention Mkhitaryan this one time because that's the one time that he participated in the game. You never even saw that this player was on the field. Çalhanoğlu, nowhere to be seen. So no possession through the midfield, turning the ball coming out of the back, no hold-up play up front, and PSG is all over you. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get destroyed, and they did.
Talk to me about Doué, Frank. Where's he come from?
He's come from Paris. He played for Rennes a couple of years, and he's still a very young player. Yeah. I like on top of all his talent is the way he wanted to learn and been discreet enough to work hard, and he's a great player.
Robert, how much has it helped Luis Enrique that overall, you mentioned some of the veteran players, but overall this is quite a young squad. Not impressionable, but obviously ones that will maybe listen more than some of the older players.
Yeah, and I'm going to just quickly go back to something you were saying. When we talked about the superstars, Ronaldo and Messi, let me say, when they were young players, when Barcelona won the Champions League at Wembley and they beat Manchester United on the previous occasion, Messi would run around. He could not do it when Pep Guardiola was the manager. He had to press the ball. He had to win it back. So he did that. Ronaldo did it at Manchester United. It was only when they became superstars and goal scorers, out-and-out goal scorers, they all went, oh, well, but he doesn't have to work anymore. He doesn't have to track back, doesn't have to close the ball down. And it all came about today. And Ali was talking about the fact that Inter couldn't get out. Who was the first player to make it predictable where Inter were going to play? It was Dembele. He sprinted towards Sommer on time and time again and made Sommer play to Bastoni. Bastoni had to play it to Di Marco, but it told the rest of the players, this is where the ball's going to go. We can go and close it down. We're going to win it back. So it all started with the work rate. And I'm not talking about tracking back. I'm talking about going and closing the ball down. Be intelligent when you're closing down. And that's exactly what Dembele did today.
Right then, let's focus on Inter, Robbo. Where did it go wrong? What was the biggest mistake they made?
Well, I said it over the last week or so. You can't press the ball if you play with 5 at the back, 3 in central midfield and 2 up front, because PSG were always going to have a ball out to the wide areas. They could get Mendes going forward. They could get Hakimi going forward. They had to, in midfield, if they were going to go and press, they had to get tight to people. They couldn't go at half pace and get played around like they did. And they couldn't just stay in their shape. They had to, at times, come out and go and mark people rather than just holding their shape, because PSG had complete control of the ball and their rotation played into the spaces where the Inter players weren't, and it was far too easy. So they needed to get at least one of their wing-backs much higher up the field so they could go and press the ball. They didn't get it into their front players, and Ali just said it again, and I've just said one of the reasons why they didn't do it. But they had to play forward much, much quicker. There was once in the first half, after about 10 minutes, when they went down the left-hand side and they played a ball down the side for Thuram. He held it up. It went to Martins. They went out wide. Dumfries got across into the box. That's what they're good at doing when they play at their best. They didn't get the ball into the front areas with enough quality early enough to cause the 2 centre-halves of PSG a problem. So they got it all wrong, despite how good PSG were. Inter got everything wrong in the game.
A couple of compliments that I suppose I have to give. Yesterday, Ali, I thought you made a good point.
Oh, thank
when
you.
we showed the starting 11 that lost against Manchester City. You were like, that team is much better than this team going into this final. And Frank, you highlighted the fact that this isn't the same Inter Milan that we're normally used to seeing. And obviously you went for a big PSG victory as well. Did we get a little hung up on that performance against Barcelona or the manner of the victory and a little hung up on the name on the shirt as opposed to analysing what this team is really like?
I think we went too far away, going to the history of the club, right. and also the fact that what they did before that Barcelona game, where made them, and I was part of them, part of those people who thought that they were solid. I thought they were solid. And when I said that yesterday, when I saw the 2 games against Barcelona, I discovered that it wasn't the case, in fact, and they were too open. And you were asking the question to Robo, what went wrong? They tried to compete against Paris Saint-Germain, where they don't have the same talents.
And they're old.
And the older, be nice, the olders, and they should have played, long ball, like old football, and be squeezed together and maybe try to press a little bit higher, but we're not trying to play the ball from the back because it doesn't work against Paris Saint-Germain, and they've been punished because of that. And be solid at the back just to wait for the right time and the right moment for an Italian team like they used to play. And they tried to play football. They've been, I have to say, I'm sorry, they've been murdered by Paris Saint-Germain today.
Yep. And Ali will say, well, actually, this could have happened against Bayern Munich.
It's been the point that I've been trying to make all along.
I was listening.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you. Somebody was. That Inter have had a tremendous amount of luck to get to this point. Look, I'll take you back. You just mentioned Bayern Munich. I'll take you back. A chance, 100% chance, that falls to whom in Bayern Munich? Harry Kane. Harry Kane. And he misses a sitter. And you think about the matches against Barcelona and how outplayed they were and how lifeless they were in that second half, in which guys like Marcos Thuram and Lautaro Martinez were dragging their feet. They were dead. And somehow they came back. And credit to them. But there was an element of good fortune that at some point was going to run out, and it was going to be exposed by outstanding individual and group performances. It's what we saw from PSG today. And to the point that Robo was making in terms of how Inter go about defending, or they could have gone about defending PSG. Look, if you're going to play with a back three, and really PSG has the one striker, Dembele, that sometimes even drops off, then you have extra players in the back line. So why not Bastoni step into the middle? Why not Acerbi step into the middle every once in a while? Why not Benjamin Pavard to help out the three guys in the midfield that in their best day, right now, cannot keep up with the passing game of PSG? So you think about Çalhanoğlu. It's not what he does, going and trying to close the ball down. Mkhitaryan, same thing. Barella, he has a little bit more fight about him. But if you're going to influence the play of PSG through the midfield, you needed to get help. And these center backs are sitting in behind the midfield three, and they're just kind of like, oh, we're just going to sit here, we got it all covered. No, if you're free and you have a chance to step into a passing lane and make it more difficult for PSG, it should have been something that Inter was willing to do, and yet they seem afraid to do.
They should have cut off the communication between Vitinha and the rest. Put the player on Vitinha to make sure that that target is cancelled from the possibilities of Paris Saint-Germain. They didn't do that. In the contrary, we didn't see Barella, we didn't see Lautaro Martinez. They've been cut off for the rest of the team, and that's the thing. That's where you have to work on, and the coach didn't do that. You get people who provide the others, and you cancel those players. Maybe you have a chance to win.
Robbo, you take a look at Inter. There was talks of obviously a quadruple at one stage this season, and everything over the last couple of months has just fallen apart for them.
It certainly has. It certainly did in Serie A when their chances to go and win games, they didn't perform. At times they've looked a tired team in these last few weeks. They've had a lot of injuries as well, and players have been playing that I don't think were fully fit. As I said today, I think there was 4 or 5 players out there that weren't fully fit, and that's one of the reasons they didn't want to go and close the ball down, because they were anxious about the game. And going back to Ali's point, brilliant point that he made, when they played Man City 2 years ago, and they made it difficult for Man City in the Champions League final, those players, Bastoni, and I'm not sure who played on the right-hand side of the back three, came out and helped their midfield players out, and they made it difficult for Man City that night. Today, I would say Inter were frightened of the game. Too many players were frightened of the athleticism of PSG and were frightened they were going to get played around, so they just stood in positions and hoped for the best, and it cost them dear.
Say the second leg of the Inter-Barcelona game was the final. Mm-hmm. Say this obviously was the final. Which losing team would you prefer to be on? Which hurts more? The manner in which Barcelona lost, of course, with that late dramatic win for Inter, or being completely outplayed for the 90 minutes today?
The final.
Really?
For me
today?
Yeah. What do you think? For me, the final. I mean, you.
And he's saying that both of them would have been fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the manner of a defeat. Would you prefer to lose like this, where you're not looking back and going, oh, if only we did that, or if only we did this, where it's just one mistake, or to be in a situation where you were beaten by a better team?
For me, even if you lose at 94th minute a game and you can have regrets, you can get some pride out of it.
Oh, okay.
Today, for me, they were nowhere near it. It's a shame. You will never watch the game anymore, and you don't want to hear about it anymore. That's the thing. And you belong to the history of the record of the team who lost the most. Mm-hmm. That's a shame, where you should be proud of getting into the Champions League. So few people have the chance to do that. I never had a Champions League final, and I was envious to Inter Milan players to have that, but to lose that way, I prefer to be here with you guys, you know. That's for me, that's shameful.
What about you, Ali?
Oh, I would rather get my backside handed to me.
Oh, really? You're the opposite?
Look, if I'm an Inter player right now, there is no doubt in my mind that team that we played against is better than us. We may have made it closer. We could have perhaps made it closer. But on the whole, that team is better than we are. And I have no issues accepting that. I would have far more issues if indeed it was close, and if it came down to one play here, one play there, one decision here, one refereeing decision there. I would be thinking about that for the rest of my life. This one, I would turn the page rather quickly, because let me just say, 5-0 is as definitive as it gets.
Robbo, you have the deciding vote.
Yeah, I'm going to go against Ali on this one. If you were a Barcelona player in that game against Inter and you came off the field, most of the players probably had an 8 out of 10. Not the defenders, but most of the midfield players and the attacking players were 8 out of 10. They enjoyed the game. They played brilliantly. They didn't enjoy the result and they're frustrated. These Inter players, when people talk about the Champions League final of 2025, oh, you played in that, and not one of them can hold their head up and say, I played okay today. Not one of them, because they were outplayed. It's an embarrassment almost.
Is it Ali's day today? Because he's not with me or for me, he's against Ali on that matter. And you had 2 compliments from the guy, from Dan. And
from the guy?
From the guys.
Yes.
From Dan and from Robo, you know. So it's all about you. Is that your birthday?
Are you jealous?
I'm a little bit envious.
Okay. All right.
Jealous.
You need a hug or something?
No. You say that he's against you while you could have said I'm for Frank, you know, whatever. Whatever.
I'm Frank.
Okay, that's too late.
The only problem, Frank, is I can't understand you.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, join the club. Let's go back to PSG and what this means. You look at the list: Carlo Ancelotti, Laurent Blanc, Unai Emery, Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino. What has Luis Enrique done that the others didn't to get this across the line, Robbo?
Well, he's earlier on in the season, I thought he was going to have the same problems he had when he was the Spain manager. Lots of passing, but going nowhere. But what he's done, he's decided that I've got to have more athleticism in the front areas. I've got to get front players that are going past people. He's got to take a lot of credit for changing the way he's played the game, because when he was manager, I saw him at Roma, too much passing at times. When he was manager of Barcelona, when they won the Champions League, they were a good side. They had plenty of pace going forward. But in recent times, although he's been a decent manager, he's been criticised for too much passing, not enough penetration. What he's done since that game against Man City in the second half there, when they got back from being 2-0 down, he's changed the way they play, the philosophy. We've got to be more penetrative. We've got to play more balls forward. We've got to go past people with the ball, not just about keeping the ball. So he's got to take a lot of credit for changing his philosophy as well.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a poison chalice, hasn't it, for managers in the past, as we mentioned. Of course, you've got to deal with Messi, Neymar and Mbappe, but still you've got to take your hat off as to what Enrique has done over the last 6 months.
Yeah, but you need to digest the past. And this one maybe happened to the rest of the players with Luis Enrique to get rid of the past and get to a new Paris Saint-Germain. But I know what the board did. Who knew Paris Saint-Germain in 2010? They weren't there. We weren't talking about them in Europe. We were talking of Ligue 1, okay, but no, the Paris Saint-Germain. So what did Qatar? They bought big players, big-time players. We saw Pastore before the game, giving with Zanetti putting the cap. Then after you had Thiago Silva, you had Ibrahimovic, all those big players who came, and of course Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, to make sure that you knew who was or what was Paris Saint-Germain at the time. And now is the time to win. And now is the time to build something we can be competitive.
Yeah,
and
so that question, does that now set a precedent for PSG? We talk about the youth of this side, a lot of exciting youngsters there.
Hopefully, but it's like Barcelona. It's a complete copy of what we see with Barcelona. Barcelona, they have young players, and it's encouraging to see what you can achieve with them. And you have to build with that and with those players, and for kind of a decade. And to see Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona being at the top of the top in Europe should also indicate to the others the way to be successful.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen in cup competitions. Best team won, didn't they, overall?
Absolutely it did. And let me just address Luis Enrique for a second there. One, there's no doubt as to who is making the decisions in terms of personnel and players to be chosen to be on the field, and decisions that have to do with PSG on the field. Obviously, and clearly, without any doubt, is Luis Enrique. There isn't a question of the manager is making a decision, but the players are going above the manager to go and talk to the bosses, right? None of that.
There's no Neymar behavior.
No Neymar, no Mbappe, none of that. And so we know who the boss is and who the decision maker is, and that's Luis Enrique. In the evolution of Luis Enrique, and I think that's important, it's something that Stewie alluded to. You think back to Spain, 2022 World Cup, and how they went out to Morocco. And that Spain team was sideways, and back, and sideways, and back. And we go this way, and we go that way, and we go this way, and we go that way. And there was never there, penetrating passes. They weren't even looking for it. Luis Enrique was the manager of that team. So there had to be some soul searching for Luis Enrique. This may have been the way that I was brought up in the game. This may be the way that perhaps my teams have been comfortable. But to Stewie's point, when they won with Barcelona Champions League, there was this as well. And he has implemented that with PSG. But in order to implement that with PSG, you have to have the players ahead of the ball that are willing to make their runs. And so while it's great to have Vitinha, and absolutely you're correct about his performance today, not only is it great to have Vitinha because he's a guy that keeps the momentum of the game and keeps the rhythm of the game, but he's also willing to find that through pass. And that through pass has runners in front of it. That's why PSG becomes so difficult to defend against.
Like Ali's through pass.
Yeah, but the pass to Doué, sorry, was exactly what it is. You know, cut the lines, you know, and create spaces for the players who just need to either score or pass to assist Hakimi. That was perfection, and it's what I love as well. Vertical.
A full house, of course, in Munich, and they got to witness history once again, which they've done quite a lot in the past, in fact, when it comes to first-time winners of this competition. Chelsea did it in 2012, Dortmund 97, Marseille, Frank.
Marseille 93, yeah.
And Nottingham Forest in 1979, first-time winners in Munich.
It's the final of the season for Shaka Hislop.
Well, there can be no arguing this time. Actually, anyway. PSG top of the tree, as you'd understand. Barcelona, Liverpool, Bayern following. Napoli, who just got the better of Inter. Inter, because they finished second in Italy, because they're Champions League finalist losers, they dropped down to 8th. And then Chelsea and Spurs, as Europa Conference League and Europa League winners respectively, make up the top 10. And if it's one thing I can say with some confidence, with a whole lot of confidence, this is my best work yet. The algorithm is again unfailing.
This is the easiest one of the lot to do.
Well,
because everything's done. It's all trophies, it's all league winners, it's all Champions League winners. This is the easiest one of the lot to do. And you got it wrong.
What did I get wrong?
Inter never got a trophy. Right?
No. That's right.
Every other team on that board was lifting the silverware. It's all about winning.
They pushed Napoli all the way in Serie A. Champions League.
They had a
Champions League
record
finalists.
defeat in the Champions League.
To the team that are top of the tree. I think Inter are deservedly number 8.
Jules Lauren is with us, and I'm sure he's not very upset with number 1 in the list.
He's all right.
Shaka, you've won me over with PSG number 1. You know, I've never loved you as much as tonight.
You're easily bought.
That is true. Jules is normally the harshest critic. That's why I put PSG number 1.
You did drop Arsenal out, though, his other team.
Well, Arsenal couldn't be there.
If
you're moaning about
you're right.
Hold on. If you're moaning about Inter, Arsenal couldn't be there.
You're right. No trophies. Arsenal shouldn't be there. You're right.
All right. Well, Shaka is back tomorrow.
I'm retiring from now.
For now.
Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. It is the day we've all been waiting for. The 30-man shortlist has been announced for this year's Ballon d'Or, and of course, there will be a new winner this year. Rodri not involved because of his injury. Maybe a couple of years ago, we thought it might be Vinicius Jr., maybe Kylian Mbappe battling it out for this award. Of course, both Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. But according to the bookies, there is certainly one front runner, and that is Ousmane Dembele, of course, so key to the success that PSG had during their season going to win the Champions League. But it's Lamine Yamal that the bookies reckon could push Dembele all the way. Of course, the teenage sensation, just incredible this season for both Barcelona and Spain. According to bookies, then it's very much a two-horse race. Welcome into the show, Ian Dark and Don Hutchinson. Right, it's a given. Nobody likes individual awards in a team sport. Yes, it's very difficult to compare players who play for better national teams who weren't at the Club World Cup, blah, blah, blah. We've been there, we've done it. We've been there. This is not an excuse to get on a soapbox.
Well, you're on it.
No, I'm not on it because I am nipping it in the bud before we get to it, and we can just get names and we can get on with it. Don, who would you vote for?
Dembele, best player in the world.
There we are. Perfect. All right, Ian Dark.
I think you've got to say Dembele because Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League so impressively, and he was at the heartbeat of that.
Bit longer, boys.
Nicol.
Dembele.
Dembele as well?
Yeah.
No case for Lamine Yamal?
No, not at all. I think it's pretty clear. I think the only argument is some of the names that are actually on the list.
Well, they had to make 30, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
You
it.
can tell.
First Scottish player for 38 years, Stephen.
Is it first for 38 years, Scott McTominay? That's fantastic.
I mean, obviously he's not going to come close to winning it. But how fantastic is that? Put out by Man United, goes to Napoli, wins the Scudetto, is loved by the Napoli fans and has just done a great job. So fantastic for him.
Why are you pulling a face?
I didn't see this coming.
But it is, isn't it?
No, it is.
I mean, he was a big part player.
Scott McTominay love him.
No, he was a big part player at Man United.
He's caught me by surprise.
Yeah. But is the story not more? Forgive me. It's the story not more. Dembele, who of course went from Borussia Dortmund to Barcelona for such a big amount of money, and then was pretty much a bit part player.
I disagree. I disagree.
Goes to
All right,
PSG.
look at this.
Yes, I don't know what.
Let's just drill over Scott McTominay for a couple of minutes.
But this is quite something from Dembele, isn't it?
You and I, it is. And he had a terrific second half of the season in particular. We should remember that. The first half of the season, PSG were not that great. The second half of the season, they were outstanding. Yes, he's got more goals than Lamine Yamal, but we watched La Liga every week. You and I sit in this studio, and what we saw, when the guys say it's not even close, I just disagree with that. And I'm taking nothing away, but for me, it's the young Spaniard just ahead of him. But I don't have an issue with that. Scott McTominay for.
So because of that,
I thought you were giving me.
You thought I was giving you
I can only see two fingers.
What?
And because of what you've just said about Dembele is another reason why Dembele deserves it as well. Listen, I've been one of those guys who have sat here for years and went, "What's this guy Dembele's kidding everybody on?
Mm-hmm.
He produces something, all of a sudden disappears."
But because
and
he's came
good, before you get rid of him,
doesn't detract from. Because he's came good, doesn't detract from what this youngster has done.
No, I don't disagree. He's fantastic, and if it went to Yamal, then it'd be tough to argue. You know, quite frankly, you might be right. He might be the best player on the planet, but the award is about that particular time. A 12-month period.
Right.
And over that 12-month period,
where's he going?
Dembele's been the best.
Yes, but Lamine Yamal hasn't really. This is kind of his first full season. This is the 12-month period we're judging him on, and you've just said that he's the best player in the world.
No, I said you couldn't argue that he may be the best player in the world.
Right.
But this is not about the best player on the planet. This is about a period of 12 months.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why Dembele deserves it, along with the story of how bad he was and how many managers we must have driven mental. Have you got something wrong with your eye?
I'm just intrigued.
He keeps going like,
What you're saying is that Dembele has been the best player in the last 12 months.
I never said that.
Right. So you're saying Lamine Yamal has been the best player in the last 12 months?
I think what we're going down here is a rabbit hole. We'd call this is a rabbit hole.
I thought you were going to say
I'm going to turn this way. Let me know when it's done.
Just explain. Yeah, I think over the last 12 months, his body of work is better than Yamal's.
So Dembele's been the best player of the last 12 months?
His body of work over the last 12 months.
Why can't you just say he's the best player? Why do you have to say body of work?
Well, why do I have to say that?
Because this is what it's about. This is what this award is about. The best player of the last 12 months. Who is it?
Dembele.
Right, OK. Right, we got there.
I told you that 5 minutes ago.
Yes, but then you started going on that you could say Lamine Yamal.
I was talking about the story. He was talking about the story of McTominay, and I'm talking about the story of Dembele.
They're without wasting any more time, they are both great stories. One from a guy who, in Spain, is now just a superstar, and he's turned 18, and we're going to get a good front seat about how he handles the pressure, which he has done brilliantly up to now. And the other one, you're absolutely right, Stevie, is a story of inconsistency and issues and being shown the door at Barcelona, and he was all that sort of stuff to an absolutely brilliant period in his home country at PSG. I don't really have an issue either way. Both of them were absolutely fantastic.
I think one good thing, almost inevitably will happen this year, which of course did happen last year, was the fact that whoever doesn't win it won't throw their toys out the pram.
Yeah.
We won't see a big protest, indeed. If it goes Lamine Yamal or Dembele, we won't see...
Well, there's no point in Real Madrid even thinking about turning up because they're going to win sod all again.
Very much so. Where do you stand on the argument of Lamine Yamal, Ian?
Well, I think if you're talking about a player who gets you out of your seat,
Yeah.
Lamine Yamal is your man. I mean, he's been phenomenal, hasn't he? And we all love watching him. But I agree with what Stevie says. We're talking about the Ballon d'Or for this year. And in this year, I think it's Dembele's award, and he will deserve it. And I think he will win it as well. But you know something about Lamine Yamal? He could be like Messi. He could win 7 or 8 of these things before he's through.
Well, he'll win 9 if he wins this one. And by the way, Ian, we're dressing up in this show now.
I know, Ian. Have you come from a council meeting? What's going on?
Well, look at Stevie.
Well, exactly. That is not a gauge.
I turn up on this show and you're all dressed
quite sure
to the
how to take
nines
that.
every week. And now, because I'm wearing a tie, you've decided to go into the smart casual mode, Craig.
But there you go. Just a spike.
I'm just doing the
I'll
opposite.
take the tie off. No,
Yeah,
I'll take the
go
tie
on.
off.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
and the button. Take the jacket off.
It wasn't,
as
of
well.
course,
Go on.
just the shortlist for the men's Ballon d'Or that was announced. It's a women's Ballon d'Or as well, which will be announced at the same ceremony, of course. Long list of 30 players. Marta, of course, maintains her place among the best in the world. She was so brilliant, wasn't she? For Brazil, just a couple of weeks ago in that final against Colombia. Very much an argument for her to once again be named Ballon d'Or. Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. It is the day we've all been waiting for. The 30-man shortlist has been announced for this year's Ballon d'Or, and of course, there will be a new winner this year. Rodri not involved because of his injury. Maybe a couple of years ago, we thought it might be Vinicius Jr., maybe Kylian Mbappe battling out for this award. Of course, both Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. But according to the bookies, there is certainly one front runner, and that is Ousmane Dembele, of course, so key to the success that PSG had during their season going to win the Champions League. But it's Lamine Yamal that the bookies reckon could push Dembele all the way. Of course, the teenage sensation, just incredible this season for both Barcelona and Spain. According to bookies, then it's very much a 2-horse race. We welcome into the show Ian Dark and Don Hutchinson. Right, it's a given. Nobody likes individual awards in a team sport. Yes, it's very difficult to compare players who play for better national teams who won the Club World Cup, blah, blah, blah. We've been there, we've done it. We've been there. This is not an excuse to get on a soapbox.
Well, you're on it.
No, I'm not on it because I am nipping it in the bud before we get to it, and we can just get names and we can get on with it. Don, who would you vote for?
Dembele, best player in the world.
There we are. Perfect. All right, Ian Dark.
I think you've got to say Dembele because Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League so impressively, and he was at the heartbeat of that.
Bit longer,
Steve
boys.
Nicol.
Dembele.
Dembele as well?
Yeah.
No case for Lamine Yamal?
No, not at all. I think it's pretty clear. I think the only argument is some of the names that are actually on the list.
Well, they had to make 30, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
you can tell.
First Scottish player for 38 years, Stephen.
Is it first for 38 years, Scott McTominay? That's fantastic.
I mean, obviously he's not going to come close to winning it. But how fantastic is that? Put out by Man United, goes to Napoli, wins the Scudetto, is loved by the Napoli fans and has just done a great job. So fantastic for him.
Why are you pulling a face?
I didn't see this coming.
But it is, isn't it?
No, it is.
I mean, he was a big part player.
Scott McTominay loving.
No, he was a big part player.
Caught me by surprise.
Yeah. But is the story not more? Forgive me. It's the story not more. Dembele, who of course went from Borussia Dortmund to Barcelona for such a big amount of money, and then was pretty much a big part player.
I disagree. I disagree.
Goes to
All right,
PSG.
look at this.
Yes, I don't know why.
Let's just drill over Scott McTominay for a couple of minutes.
But this is quite something from Dembele, isn't it?
You and I, it is. And he had a terrific second half of the season in particular. We should remember that. The first half of the season, PSG were not that great. The second half of the season, they were outstanding. Yes, he's got more goals than Lamine Yamal, but we watched La Liga every week, you and I sit in this studio, and what we saw, when the guys say it's not even close, I just disagree with that. And I'm taking nothing away, but for me, it's the young Spaniard just ahead of him. But I don't have an issue with that. Scott McTominay thought.
So because of that,
I thought you were giving me.
You thought I was giving you a
I can only see two fingers.
What?
And because of what you've just said about Dembele is another reason why Dembele deserves it as well. Listen, I've been one of those guys who have sat here for years and went, "What's this guy Dembele's kidding everybody on? He produces something, all of a sudden disappears."
But because
and
he's came
and then
good,
before you get rid of him,
doesn't detract from because he's came good. Doesn't detract from what this youngster has done.
No, I don't disagree. He's fantastic, and if it went to Yamal, then it'd be tough to argue. You know, quite frankly, you might be right. He might be the best player on the planet, but the award is about that particular time. A 12-month period.
Right.
And over that 12-month period,
where's he going?
Dembele's been the best.
Yes, but Lamine Yamal hasn't really... This is kind of his first full season. This is the 12-month period we're judging him on, and you've just said that he's the best player in the world.
No, I said you couldn't argue that he may be the best player in the world.
Right.
But this is not about the best player on the planet. This is about
the last 12
a period of 12 months.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why Dembele deserves it, along with the story of how bad he was and how many managers we must have driven mental. Have you got something wrong with your eye?
I'm just intrigued.
He keeps going like that.
What you're saying is that Dembele has been the best player in the last 12 months.
I never said that.
Right. So you're saying Lamine Yamal has been the best player in the last 12 months?
I think what we're going down here is a rabbit hole. We'd call this is a rabbit hole.
I thought you were going to say
I'm going to turn this way. Let me know when it's done.
Just explain.
Yeah, I think over the last 12 months, his body of work is better than Yamal's.
So Dembele's been the best player of the last 12 months?
His body of work over the last 12 months.
Why can't you just say he's the best player? Why do you have to say body of work?
Well, why do I have to say that? Just
because
to
this is what it's
satisfy
about. This is what this award is about. The best player of the last 12 months. Who is it?
Dembele.
Right, OK. Right, we got there.
I told you that 5 minutes ago.
Yes, but then you started going on that you could say Lamine Yamal.
I was talking about the story. He was talking about the story of McTominay, and I'm talking about the story of Dembele.
They're, you know, without wasting any more time, they are both great stories. One from a guy who, in Spain, is now just a superstar, and he's turned 18, and we're going to get a good front seat about how he handles the pressure, which he has done brilliantly up to now. And the other one, you're absolutely right, Stevie, is a story of inconsistency and issues and being shown the door at Barcelona, and he was all that sort of stuff to an absolutely brilliant period in his home country at PSG. I don't really have an issue either way. Both of them were absolutely fantastic.
I think one good thing, almost inevitably will happen this year, which of course did happen last year, was the fact that whoever doesn't win it won't throw their toys out the pram. Yeah. We won't see a big protest, indeed. If it goes Lamine Yamal or Dembele, we won't see...
Well, there's no point in Real Madrid even thinking about turning up because they're going to win sod all again.
Very much so. Where do you stand on the argument of Lamine Yamal, Ian?
Well, I think if you're talking about a player who gets you out of your seat, Lamine Yamal is your man. I mean, he's been phenomenal, hasn't he? And we all love watching him. But I agree with what Stevie says. We're talking about the Ballon d'Or for this year. And in this year, I think it's Dembele's award, and he will deserve it. And I think he will win it as well. But you know something about Lamine Yamal? He could be like Messi. He could win 7 or 8 of these things before he's through.
Well, he'll win 9 if he wins this one. And by the way, Ian, we're dressing up in this show now. You know,
I know,
so
Ian. Have you come from a council meeting? What's going on?
Well, look at Stevie.
Well, exactly. that is not a gauge.
I turn up on this show, and you're all dressed
quite sure how to take that
every week. And now, because I'm wearing a tie, you've decided to go into the smart casual mode, Craig.
But there you go. Just a spite.
I'm just doing the opposite.
No, take the tie off.
Yeah, go on.
There you go. And the button. Take the jacket off.
It wasn't, of course, just the shortlist for the men's Ballon d'Or that was announced. It's a women's Ballon d'Or as well, which we announced at the same ceremony, of course. Long list of 30 players. Marta, of course, maintains her place among the best in the world. She was so brilliant, wasn't she? For Brazil just a couple of weeks ago in that final against Colombia. Very much an argument for her to once again be named Ballon d'Or.
However, late drama continuing to follow Liverpool. They lost to Palace by the same scoreline last week. Nketiah scoring in the 97th minute there. And today, Estevao in the 95th minute. Let's hear from Liverpool coach Arne Slot after the game.
We've created more than enough chances to score more than one goal last week and today. And when we did, I think there was a period of the game where I felt now we're going to win it. We came a lot of times very close with chances, but also with moments where we had a 4 versus 3 in our favor, not outplaying it well enough in the last pass, but and in the last 10 minutes it was an end-to-end game. Both teams could have won it, and we didn't, and Chelsea did. If the result would have been better today with a draw or a win, which was both possible, I don't say we deserved it. A draw we definitely deserved, but then we would have had a great start to the season if you take into account everything that what happened in the summer in Liverpool.
Don Hutchison joining us now. Frank Leboeuf is with us as well, but only one place to start here. Stevie, Nicol, how are you feeling?
Well, to be honest, I'm listening to Arne Slot, and I've been in this position before where you've gotten beaten by a late goal, you've had a couple of chances in the game, and so you're clinging on and trying to spin it in a way that actually you're unlucky. But Arne Slot has to look at the big picture here. Liverpool, yet again, were not half the side they were last year. Liverpool, again, were guilty of coughing the ball up. Liverpool, again, were guilty of getting run through in the middle of the park. They were guilty defensively of not defending properly. I mean, there are so many things that were wrong with Liverpool that have been wrong with them since the season started, not just today's game. And so he's clinging on to a couple of chances that, by the way, were half chances. There's not one chance in that game today where you're saying Liverpool should have scored. There's not one. And we showed the highlights. There was certainly more Chelsea highlights than there was Liverpool highlights. So I think he's doing what all coaches do, all managers do. They're going on the positive route and talking about what might have been and what could have been. But the truth of the matter is, Chelsea were the better side and Liverpool were miles off it again.
Liverpool were the late goal kings before, Don, and now they're conceding late goals. How did you see today's game?
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you make the game into a basketball game. You can score late, you can concede late. I think when I look at Liverpool and what they're missing, they're certainly missing Trent's passing ability at right back. They're certainly missing Luis Diaz, who scored 2 for Bayern today. He's a player that takes Liverpool up the pitch. But they've lost control of games. That's the big takeaway from the start of the season up till now, where when you watched Arne Slot's team last year, they would slow the game down. They would dictate the pace of the game. You saw the Real Madrid game tonight. They just popped some 5-yard passes around and took the sting of any sort of threats that might came their way. That was Liverpool last season. They kept the ball for fun. They slowed the game down. They were good in transition when needed to be. They scored good goals. They were arrogant in a good way. They were confident, and that's something you can never measure. Now you're watching a team that's lacking in confidence, because if you had to ask Liverpool fans before the game, would you take a draw at Stamford Bridge? Probably. But, you know, I was on call for the Arsenal game today, and they absolutely dominated West Ham in an amazing manner. You watch Liverpool now, you just think they need to go back to basics. I've seen Kirkes, and that's the difference when you play for a club like Bournemouth or a club like Liverpool. Kirkes last week against Crystal Palace kicked the ball out for a throw-in. You can't do that when you play for Liverpool. You give up a goal. Andy Robertson had his hands on his thighs at the end of the game, totally switched off. I'm not sure if that was tiredness or an injury, but he should have done better. So you're watching so many things like Liverpool, like Stevie said, where it's individual mistakes, it's a lack of confidence, it's conceding late goals, it's not controlling games, which is the main thing. And I think that's the biggest worry for Arne Slot, how his team now are turning every single game into a basketball match.
Don, much has been made of bringing Endo on late on instead of Chiesa, who we've seen can change a game late on. Did Slot play for the draw today? Yeah, and I think he was wise to. I think at 1-1, why wouldn't you bring Endo on to secure what you can? You know, you can try and secure a point because you think, right, we've been under it today. It's a brilliant game of football. Caicedo was man of the match by a million miles. I thought it was outstanding. So that in-game management, I think, from Arne Slot bringing Endo on was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, when
You know, when you give up a late goal, there's no time then to bring Chiesa on. If you're super aggressive, you can try and pick the bones and go, well, Chiesa might have been a player that you might have brought on at 1-1 to try and win the game. I think that in-game moment, I think Slot actually done the right thing, trying to secure a point.
Meanwhile, Frank must mention Chelsea here because that is quite the win for them so late on against Liverpool and also managing to do it in front of the home fans too.
That was a great performance from the Blues, and I think it's a deserving win. And I'm glad that Don and Stevie are seeing the truth, and contrary with Arne Slot, because really, while I was listening to him in the post-game press conference, and I say, well, that guy didn't see the first half, I think. Liverpool was completely apathetic in the first half, and I didn't recognize any players and got a little bit sloppy. On the first goal, Virgil van Dijk gave the ball very late to Mamardashvili, who put the ball in the three, and then they scored the Chelsea scored the goal. We only saw Liverpool a little bit in the beginning of the second half, better, of course, in the second half, but overall, Chelsea for 90 minutes were very good. I agree with Don. Caicedo was very good, but I was very surprised by Badiashile and Acheampong. We did the job. Very strong, organized, talking to each other, covering each other. Even Garnacho did the job, putting Bradley in a difficult situation. Everybody did his job. I'm a big fan of Neto. Everybody worked very hard, and what they did was absolutely what we were expecting from them, playing against the former winner of the PL. But again, Chelsea deserved to win that game.
Ali, Estevo's got something about him, hasn't he?
Absolutely he does. And I think more importantly than anything, there's a personality to him that doesn't have to be see me, it's all about me. I'm talking about personality in key moments of games in which he gets the ball, he's facing up defenders, and he's not afraid of the moment. That's personality. That's courage in footballing terms, that I am here to do a job. Please give me the ball. I am aching to get on this ball so that I can make something happen. And there's also something to be said about the fact that he's got fresh legs, young legs, which I cannot say the same thing about Andy Robertson. Estevao basically bets on himself, banks on himself to be able to get to the end of that cross by Cucurella, whereas Andy Robertson sees it developing, but whatever is going on in the brain is not communicating to the legs because the legs are gone. And it has happened to all of us at some point in our career in which you see it happening, you see it developing, and still your legs won't do what you ask them to do. And by the time he realized that Estevao was back there, by the time he realized that ball was coming across, it was all too late. As for the point of Estevao, I think he is a good example among many good examples of Chelsea today that had high energy over the course of 90 minutes. And that is something that we would have said about Liverpool in the past. High energy, sustaining that high energy over 90 minutes. Too many players today, from the perspective of Liverpool, with a tired performance, whereas Chelsea were always on the front foot. A couple of times, some nervous defending, a couple of times, moments of transition in which they could have been cut out. But for the most part, Chelsea on the front foot, high energy, winning 50-50 challenges, Liverpool reacting to Chelsea.
The goal comes because Robertson has just done 100 yards. Mm-hmm. Robertson had just ran from Chelsea's penalty box and come back, and as Don said, he had his hands on his knees because he was gasping for air. That's why they get the goal. You know, you could have stuck anybody in a blue jersey on at the end of that game going forward. I mean, Liverpool were an absolute shambles by the end. And absolutely, Endo, in my opinion, was not brought on to take the point. McAllister was knackered. That's why Endo came on. This wasn't some sort of tactical move, because from the minute Endo came on to the last whistle, Liverpool were charging forward. It was like a cavalry charge. I mean, they're just playing desperation football. They're desperate. How can you turn an 11 into what Liverpool finished with? Two of your three midfielders are playing in the back line. You've taken your left back off. You're stuck in a left back on who's never going to be able to stick with Estevao or anybody else or Neto or anybody. I mean, it's just this, by the end of the game, it's a shambles. You turn your midfield into your defence. You turn your defence into people going forward. Your front three, including Mo Salah, who right now couldn't hit a barn door if he was standing in front of it.
So where are these struggles coming from with Mo Salah?
Do you know, Mo Salah, just personally, is suffering more than anybody because of the fact that Liverpool cannot keep the ball. Mo Salah is not your normal football player. This is a guy who stands on it, gives it away, but he scores goals. And he's always been the same. Right now, there's one piece of those three missing, and that's the goals. And the biggest problem is Liverpool cannot play three passes amongst themselves together. Crystal Palace, Don was talking about Kerkez last week at Crystal Palace, passing the ball out the field. He wasn't the only one at Palace. It happened twice. It happened twice again today. And if you ever needed any sort of inkling of what the biggest problem is those. When you've got two players who are not connected and the ball's being passed out the field, that's happening all over the field. This is not just a case of a couple of errant passes. Liverpool right now are struggling to pass the ball from A to B consistently and correctly. Never mind making 3 and 4 passes and moving forward comfortably. They're not capable. We watched PSG last week. I don't remember anybody taking more than 2 touches in a PSG jersey. It was out your feet, roll it, out your feet, roll it. Everybody's moving, everybody's playing passes. I don't see anybody playing 2 touch with Liverpool. It's all 2 touches and then it's head up and then looking for a pass. At this level, you don't get that time. And again, the first example is a great example. Liverpool couldn't breathe. They couldn't breathe, and then they couldn't close the ball properly either. I mean, I could go on here for the next half an hour.
But we need to let Frank in.
Sorry, Frank, but there's just so many things going wrong.
That's all right.
There are so many things going wrong, and it comes down to basics. Football, the best teams play the basics the best, and that's what PSG do. Short, sharp, accurate passes. The opposition can't get close enough. I mean, it's what PSG are doing compared to Liverpool right now. They're on 2 different planets.
Frank?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go to. In fact, that we enjoy watching Liverpool playing the former years because they had that. They had that involvement, every players into every part of the football, offensively in the construction and building of the game, and also in the finishing. And the best example on what we don't see right now is Mo Salah. Mo Salah can score a goal, but when he loses the ball, he walks. And it's not the Liverpool we are used to see. And it's why we were so positive about that team and that club and the coach and the spirit. And we talked about the Liverpool spirit and that you have to give your life. We don't feel that most players are ready to give their lives into that game. And today we see completely the opposite. We saw Chelsea doing and giving everything. Stevie was talking about Paris Saint-Germain. It's what we feel when we see Paris Saint-Germain. We feel that the players, they can go back, even the forward players, they go back when they lose the ball. Today we saw Neto and we saw Garnacho coming back. I never saw Mo Salah doing even 3 yards when he lost the ball. And we know how important the spirit of that guy is for the rest of the team because he's a leader. And that's what's lacking right now for Liverpool. The mentality is not there, and it doesn't work with the way they want to play.
So what do they do with Salah, Don? You're not going to bench him, are you?
Well, they might have to seriously think about what happens in the future.
Sorry.
Okay, Frank. Go ahead, Don.
I think they might have to think about what they do in the future. I mean, Michael Olise's ripping it up at Bayern on that right-hand side. You wouldn't bench him, but what they've got to do, and I think Frank's alluding to it and Stevie's alluding to it, they've got to keep the ball better. We played under Ronnie Moran, a famous Liverpool coach, and it was always keep the ball, find a red shirt. Liverpool, if you simplify it, are giving the ball away that many times. They can't make the way from back to middle and then Liverpool high up the pitch. Cody Gakpo was playing high up on the left-hand side. Salah playing high up on the right-hand side for Liverpool. So even if they lost the ball in an area on the opposition's 18-yard box, there was a long way for the opposition last season to travel and try and score a goal. Salah now, his average position is quite close to the halfway line.
Good finish for Liverpool, big result for them. Alexis McAllister's goal, the difference between the two sides. And Liverpool, well, lots of questions to ask about them. Same could be said for Real Madrid as well. Let's welcome in our panel for this evening. We have Jurgen Klinsmann with us and Stuart Robson as well. I must start with you though, Stevie. Is this the best Liverpool we've seen this season?
Listen, you couldn't have dreamt, if you were anybody connected with Liverpool today, you couldn't have dreamt the way they played. I mean, quite frankly, they outplayed Real Madrid for the majority of the game. Little spells where Real Madrid had some possession, but this was all about Liverpool going forward. You know, we've been talking about who's to blame for Liverpool's poor performances. Is it the players? Is it the manager? Well, today, everybody gets the praise because the players absolutely turned up tonight. Defensively, they were great. The middle of the park, they were fantastic. That three of McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai were outstanding. Szoboszlai in the first half was absolute world class. And Arne Slot, in my opinion, got this absolutely 100% right because nobody expected him to play Wirtz. I certainly didn't. And I guess because of the Real Madrid setup, because they had nothing down that right-hand side, Liverpool's left, and so he could play Wirtz. And Wirtz was allowed to drift. And he just got in positions and he knitted everything together. Him and Szoboszlai passing and moving. It was dream zone for Liverpool in this game. To pick, of all games, to produce your best performance of the season at home to Real Madrid, big-time game, and boy, did they deserve it. 1-0 it finished, it should have been 3 or 4.
What did you make of Liverpool tonight, Robbo?
They played well after the first 20 minutes, I would say. There was a little period in the game where Real Madrid had a bit of possession, but they didn't really create anything with that possession. And you thought that maybe Liverpool were frightened of the game. They were dropping deeper. They were going to try and play on the counter-attack. But as soon as they had the penalty disallowed, it changed the game completely. Suddenly they were on the front foot, they were winning balls in midfield, they were breaking quickly, they were getting balls into the box, they were winning headers, they were winning every 50-50 challenge, they defended well. So after that first 20-25 minutes, when I think they were a little bit worried about the game and what Real Madrid had, after that, they were the better team, there's no doubt about it. And when you saw the highlights there, it just summed it up. Lots of highlights, not much going on for Real Madrid.
A deserved win for Liverpool for you, Jurgen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they had majority of the chances. Real Madrid looked a little bit flat, you know, and I thought it was a fantastic performance by Liverpool at the right time. Now, obviously, they had a bit of a bumpy road over the last couple of weeks. A lot of question marks, you know, in Liverpool, but this was a fantastic response, you know, for players and for the coach. Obviously, was enjoyable to watch. And I was obviously very pleased that he played Florian Wirtz. Stevie said he didn't expect him to play. And and I think the kid showed up. You know, he did fantastic kind of sequences within the game. He didn't score, obviously, but he's growing. You know, he's a young kid. And I think, you know, going forward, you know, he will grow with every game. Also, the games where he maybe didn't play so well. And I think there will be a lot to be seen by Florian Wirtz in the near future.
What was wrong with Real Madrid tonight, Ale?
Well, where do we start? Let me start with the manager and the personnel decision that he made. In having Camavinga sort of playing up high on the right-hand side, at least for the first half, that was never going to work. I don't know how Xabi Alonso and his staff get together and say, you know, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Camavinga, who's naturally a left-sided player or naturally a left-footed player, and who's not an attacking player naturally, is not what he does best. We're going to put him high, wide, and right. That limits what Real Madrid could do down the right-hand side. And I think Stevie just mentioned and alluded to the fact that given the fact that Real Madrid was so limited down the right-hand side, it's almost as if they were playing on one half of the field. Yeah? If you look at the field vertically, it's like they were playing like this, tilted to the left. Everything was going towards Vini. Everything was going towards Mbappe coming from the left-hand side. Everything was coming perhaps from Bellingham. There was no presence on that right-hand side. And so Camavinga wasn't giving you any sort of width, wasn't giving you any sort of depth, wasn't giving you anything on the right. And so then he started drifting inside, which then just left that left-hand side all open for Liverpool, I should say. That's on the tactical part, and I don't understand how that made sense in Xabi Alonso's head. I see I see what's happening and I go, well, I just don't see the same picture and I don't see the reasoning either. But he did it, Liverpool took advantage of it. Beyond that, if Real Madrid are going to go into Anfield and win a game, then you need to have a presence in the midfield that's strong enough to match up with guys like Szoboszlai, who was excellent, to match up with guys like Florian Wirtz, who was excellent, to match up with guys like McAllister, who scored a goal and was controlling the game alongside Szoboszlai. Real Madrid, without any sort of structure in the midfield, got exposed, which then means that the service into Mbappe gets cut out. He gets impatient and starts drifting everywhere except down the middle, where he has been most successful this season. And then Vini on the left-hand side, who should be a game changer for you, was not today, was largely ineffective, and was controlled very well by Conor Bradley. Other than that, Real Madrid was great today.
As soon as Liverpool scored the goal, actually, Mbappe, you could see him thinking, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to come back to the halfway line and get the ball, and then I'm going to try and beat 10 people. I mean, it was kind of schoolboyish to watch him, because he just had enough of no service, no ball, nothing, running around, not getting close to anybody, just invisible. Actually, pretty much like most of the Real Madrid side.
Robbo, it was put to Xabi Alonso after the game that they were outplayed by Liverpool, and he said he didn't think so. He thought that they competed well in this game.
Well, they competed, but not very well. And going back to Ali's point, one of the reasons that he had to play Camavinga out on the right-hand side is because he doesn't trust Bellingham as a central midfield player. If you play Rodrigo out on the right-hand side and Vinny Jr. out on the left-hand side and Mbappe up front, then you have two central midfielders or three central midfielders, and one of them has to be Bellingham. But because he doesn't want to run back and he doesn't want to get around the pitch as much as he should do, and he wants to be a number 10, somehow Xabi Alonso tried to fit him in the team. And that just backfired against him. So they didn't compete well enough. And as the boys said, Mbappe wanted to go here, there and everywhere except in between the two centre-halves where he can be most threatening. And Vinny Jr. was completely outplayed by Conor Bradley. You know, they just weren't good enough tonight.
Did Xabi Alonso get it wrong tonight, Jurgen?
Well, his challenge is really to get the players in their best spots. You know, if you have so many superstars in your team and you're getting forced to put them on the field, you kind of make some sacrifices in certain positions. And Camavinga, obviously, as you rightfully say, he's not a right winger. He's lost out there. And if you have Bellingham in the middle, then you need to have somebody covering his back basically when he goes forward. And so, but you have these big names and you have to put them on the field. Now, to put them together on the field, all in the right position, is very difficult, because we know that Mbappe loves to come from the left wing, going into the middle, drifting into the middle. Same with Vinicius Jr. And so he will throughout the entire year, he will have these issues, these problems, you know, to get his superstars in their best positions where they can excel. On the other hand, also when you have forward players like he has, then you need some cover. You need people that, you know, protect your back four, your back line. Otherwise, you're too open, and this is exactly what happened today. You know, their right side then became an area for Liverpool to attack. Wirtz took advantage of it. Other players took advantage of it, and then you struggle. So this is something that Xabi Alonso will have to figure out over the next couple of months.
I'm sitting here with three guys who have been managers at one point or another. And what I don't understand is that if you're game planning and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, Camavinga over there somehow makes sense. If you somehow get past that idea and think, yeah, that makes sense, and you see how the game is going, why is there no in-game adjustment and saying, look, we're going to need a fourth midfielder, as Stewie just mentioned. Okay, well, then we're going to tuck Camavinga in here, and we're going to play with four in the middle, and we'll play with two strikers. And Mbappe, you get a little bit more central, and Vinny, you kind of run around Kylian. Sometimes you go on the left, sometimes you go on the right, maybe underneath, run beyond Kylian. How is that not a possibility for Real Madrid? And how is this not something that a manager at this level is unable to see that, okay, if you're hell-bent on having four midfielders because you think you need that protection, why don't you just tuck him in? Why do you still have him out there for 45 minutes, for 60 minutes out there on the right-hand side when you're getting exposed time and time again? That lack of in-game adjustment, I understand having to fit in big names on the field. Well, you can fit in the big names on the field and still be structurally sound. They were not today.
So before I go back to Stevie with Liverpool, just another question for you, LA. We've now seen 3 big games this season under Xabi Alonso for Real Madrid. They lost big time in El Derby against Atleti. They won El Clasico against Barcelona, and they've lost here at Anfield to Liverpool. What can we take away from Xabi Alonso in these big games so far this season?
Well, part of it I just spoke about. And I think it goes back to his time at Bayer Leverkusen, his last season at Bayer Leverkusen, and some of the decisions that he made at Bayer Leverkusen in Champions League. In which in games that truly matter, that were a knockout stage against Bayern Munich, for example, making the goalkeeping decision in terms of who started and who didn't start, who started up top, or not playing with a striker, sort of overthinking stuff and tinkering. And I find that if you want to get the best out of Real Madrid, first of all, you have to find structure and organization. And once you put that forth to this team, then consistency. No, clarity of thought. This is your role. There's too much in this team in which they're allowed and given the freedom to just, hey, you go here, you go there, you read the game here, you read the game there. And that's all fine and well, as long as you know what your reset positions are when you start to defend. And what I see from this team is, yeah, Jude Bellingham takes off, makes the run, but there is nobody covering him if he goes. If Kylian Mbappe drifts, nobody appears in the middle. If you want a good example of that, I'll give you an example. Trent Alexander-Arnold comes on the field. What is he going to do when he gets in an advanced position? He's going to swing the ball in. Kylian Mbappe decided to come to the top of the 18-yard box instead of being the center forward. And that's what I'm talking about, that the reset positions are not there. If Kylian Mbappe drops off, then somebody's got to go inside the 18-yard box. That doesn't happen. And it happens regularly, defensively and offensively. That is a lack of structure organization that I don't think this team has, and they're very clear about. And it's something that some people have said, well, this is what Xabi Alonso has brought to this team. Maybe. In these big games that we're talking about, not so much.
How does the coach transmit that to the team, Jurgen?
Well, especially on that level, I mean, at Real Madrid, I mean, it's a very difficult task for the manager. Now, is that now exactly the team that he wanted from the beginning on? Is it that team that he takes over from the previous season? Does he now need to figure out where everybody has his favorite places to play and can excel the best possible? So you try to put the puzzle together in the way that, okay, if I play Mbappe here, then I need to cover him up on the other side from another player. Now, so who does the dirty work for the big shots up front? So you have to work on that puzzle continuously, and maybe you realize after a couple of months into that process that, okay, you know what, I can play maybe with 3 forward players, Vinicius Junior, Mbappe, and maybe even Rodrigo, or but then I need to have specific other players that cover them. They are there for them, and also you need to have your star players defend as well, dropping back after losing the balls, and maybe coming, as Alejandro said, you need to have the structure, you need to have the shape to work together. So this is a huge task for Xabi Alonso because it's a different approach than he had in Leverkusen. In Leverkusen, he could basically step by step put the players in their preferred positions, but he chose those players. He knew exactly where they had their strengths and weaknesses, and so he could cover them up, whatever weaknesses they had. So now he takes over such a superstar team, Galacticos, with all their goods when they go forward and maybe score plenty of goals, but also with their bads when they go, and maybe don't want to all defend, at certain moments. They don't want to run back 50, 60 yards after losing the ball, maybe in the case of Bellingham, for example. So this will be not an easy task for Xabi, but, it's Real Madrid.
Yeah, so as for Liverpool, obviously they beat Villa, now they've beaten Real Madrid. Next up is Manchester City away. How do they ensure it's this version of Liverpool that we saw tonight against Real Madrid, against Man City?
Well, I think what you've seen over the last couple of games in particular is the fog has disappeared. They started the season by winning games somehow, and then they lost, 5 out of 6? And everybody was running around overthinking everything. taking too long to make passes. Everybody's so concerned with trying to figure out what's going on that they forgot to play football. You know, the ability they have on the field, they need to try and relax, and they couldn't relax. And that performance against Villa was the first step to relaxing. And I think you saw a team that was relaxed tonight. You know, the move. We've not seen Liverpool with a movement like that since last season. You know, and Wirtz was a huge part of that. He unlocked a lot of space for other players. And so I think they've just come out the fog. And I think they'll be relishing going to Man City. You know, from 2 weeks ago thinking, wow, we got Villa at home, we got Real Madrid at home, then we got City away. Now it's, well, we've taken care of Villa. We've absolutely outplayed Real Madrid. Let's go and do the same with Man City.
It's relaxed, but with emotion. It's relaxed, but with intensity. And we saw that, some of it against Aston Villa, and we actually talked about over the weekend that you were seeing the emotional edge coming back for Liverpool, and the reaction of the players when they're making a challenge, the reaction of the players when they're winning a 50-50 ball, whenever they're doing a play that is not just about completing a pass, that it's about building momentum and building character and building self-belief and building confidence that you haven't had over the course of the season. Now, that confidence comes from the fact that you're winning games. They did that against Aston Villa, and I think what would fill this team with confidence after Real Madrid is not only did they beat Real Madrid playing the game, not only did they beat them in the score, they were also emotionally invested in the game, in which they were all over Real Madrid and did not allow this team to breathe. That, I think, elevates you. What they have to be careful with is that you take a breather, and that breather becomes complacency. You cannot afford to do that if you're Liverpool. You have to carry this momentum forward and know that a lot of your success has come from that urgency, from that intensity, from that emotion that was lacking for about a month, I would say in the middle part of the season. As we have come to see earlier, they were winning games. Then later, they were sort of scraping by, and then they couldn't get results. Now it seems like they have turned around, continue this momentum, and it has to be based with that emotion and that intensity.
Do you think they have come out of the fog, as Stevie said, Robbo? Is this them turning a corner?
I hope it is. It looked as though it is over the last couple of games. And just going back to what the guys are saying, you relax and you make good decisions with the ball, and then the fire intensity comes when you haven't got the ball. You can't relax when you haven't got the ball. And that's exactly what they did tonight. When they made good decisions on the ball, they were at times relaxed on the ball, they made good decisions, they made the right pass, and then when they lost it, that intensity came back, that fire came back, that determination, the speed across the field came back, and they outran and outplayed Real Madrid. So that's got to keep going, and they've got to remember how they did it tonight, take it into the next game against Man City.
Just to end here, were you surprised he brought Trent Alexander-Arnold on, Xabi Alonso?
Couldn't believe it. Absolutely shocked. You know, the only thing, I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but the only thing I thought would happen if you brought Trent on was the crowd would start getting on top of him, which then builds the whole stadium. The crowd then get into it because they can't wait to have a go at Trent, which translates onto the field that gives Liverpool a lift as well. Because at that stage, you're 1-0 up, you're not going to take too many chances, you're going to try and keep a hold of what you have. So Real Madrid had some possession at that stage, but it actually helped Liverpool, in my opinion, because it gave them something. They wanted to make sure that Trent Alexander wasn't walking off this field with an assist, a goal or anything, and the crowd made sure that he wasn't going to get any help from them either. So I think Xavi, he made a mistake bringing Trent Alexander on. I think all it did was help Liverpool. It certainly didn't help Real Madrid, in my opinion.
Real Madrid will be back in action in La Liga next to try and bounce back from this loss. So as you know, Liverpool twice threw away a lead at Elland Road versus Leeds on Saturday, but all the big news after the game was what Mohamed Salah had to say. We're going to hear that from him, and then we'll hear what Arne Slot has to say after that.
I'm very, very disappointed, to be fair. I have done so much for this club. Everybody can see that during the years, and especially last season. Sitting on the bench, I don't know why. Seems like a club is throwing me under the bus. That's how I feel it. I think it's very clear that someone wants me to get all the blame. The club promised me in the summer for a lot of promises and nothing. So far, I'm in the bench 3 games. so I can say that they keep the promise. And I said that many times before. I had a good relationship with the manager, and out of the sudden, we don't have any relationship. I don't know why. It seems to me, how I see it, it's someone doesn't want me in the club. But again, this club, I always support it. My kids will always support it. I love the club so much, and I will always do. Now I called my mom yesterday because I knew you guys didn't know that I'm gonna start or not, but I knew. I called my mom and dad yesterday. I told them come to Brighton game. It doesn't matter if I play or not. I'm gonna enjoy it. We'll see what's gonna happen, but in my head, I'm going to enjoy that game if I played or not, if I'm in the bench or not, because I don't know what's gonna happen now. So I'm just gonna be in Anfield, say goodbye to the fans. I'm going to Africa Cup. Because I don't know what's going to happen when I'm there.
What do you do with the situation now, Mohamed?
It's not acceptable for me, to be fair. Like, I don't know why that's happening always to me. Like, I don't get it. I think if I'm somewhere else, every club will protect his player. I don't know why I'm in that situation now. But again, it's how I see it now. It's like you throw him more under the bus because he's a problem in the team now. But I don't think I'm the problem. I have done so much for this club to get the respect I want to get. And I don't have to go every day fighting for my position because I earn it. People will say, you're not bigger than... I'm not bigger than anyone. I earn my position. This is football. Yeah. So it is what it is.
When you say that about the Brighton game, you mean that possibly it could, be a last game, you consider your future in January, perhaps?
Yeah, in football you never know, but I don't accept the situation, to be fair.
Usually I'm calm and polite, but that doesn't mean I'm weak. So if a player has these comments about so many things, then it's about us as a club to react, and we reacted in a way you can see now that he's not here.
Do you feel your relationship has broken down?
No, that's not the way I feel, but he has the right to feel how he feels things. I haven't felt that at all till Saturday evening for sure. The most thoughts I had are about tomorrow, and in the meantime we've decided what I just said, not to take him with us to this game, and after tomorrow we will look at the situation again. I'm a firm believer that there's always a possibility to return for a player.
This is the first time we've seen Stevie since this bombshell dropped. What's your reaction to it?
Well, it makes you angry. It makes me angry listening to him. If there's one thing that Mo Salah has had, regardless of what he's done on the field, is he's had class off the field. This is the absolute opposite. There's nothing classy about this. He's basically coming out, he's having a go at the club. I mean, why is he having a go at the Liverpool Football Club? I mean, they gave him 400 grand a week 4 months ago, and he's trying to say they throw him under the bus. I mean, really? I understand if he's upset at the manager, I get that. But the bottom line is, you do not come out and do what he did. Liverpool, that dressing room is going through enough turmoil. They don't need him throwing more fuel on the fire. Because all it's going to do is make the noise louder, and it's going to come more often. And then he's talking about he's getting thrown under the bus, and he doesn't know why. What's he talking about? Has he gone home and looked in the mirror and seen what we see? Because he's telling us Slaughter and the club are not backing him. He's blaming them, basically. He's taking no responsibility for his poor performances. 13 Premier League games in. There's no saying in the game, you're only as good as your last game. Well, unfortunately for Mohamed, his last game wasn't good. The one before it wasn't good. The one before it was worse. The one before that was even worse. He's taking no responsibility. I don't remember him last year when he's scoring all these goals and getting all the applaudits and all the pats in the back. I don't remember him turning around and saying, the club have been so good to me, and Arne Slot, all of a sudden, the club and Arne Slot are the reason why he's not playing well. I mean, it's just every single thing about it smells. And there's only one little bit that he said that we didn't actually hear there, that I will give him, is that he said he didn't know why. Now, that tells me that Arne Slot hasn't sat him down and explained why he's not playing. A proper coach, in my opinion, when you're bringing somebody like a Mo Salah or a player who's a regular, and all of a sudden you're not playing them, you sit them down and you tell them exactly why they're not playing. And you do that for two reasons. Number one, then the player can have no qualms about why he's not playing, but you've also told them how he needs to get back in the team. And you've also covered your back so that somebody like Mo Salah can't come out and say, well, I've got no idea why I'm not playing. So other than that little thing, I'm sorry, Mo, no class in that statement whatsoever.
How does it resolve itself?
I would not be shocked if he's not gone in the January window. I mean, that's to do what he did. There's going to be players in the dressing room that are going to be unhappy with him as well. I mean, there's so much turmoil that what the dressing room doesn't need is somebody to add more turmoil. You know, and he's one of the senior players. Whenever you're at a football club and things are not going well, you need your senior players, the guys at the top of the tree, to be the example both on and off the field. And I'm afraid Mo has shown neither on the field and quite clearly now off the field.
Mario, what do you think about what Stevie's saying?
No, you know what Stevie said, I'm sad actually, because, you know, when you're that good, right, as an individual, and you play that great of a season. Remember, we were talking about him, and you know, like even last season, we were saying like, oh, he earned that right. I even said that he earned the right to get a new deal and everything. Then he comes out and says that. One key thing that Mo have to understand, he's in the middle of his career, and maybe he doesn't get it, but I can tell you, after your career, it is gonna be like that. You're not gonna get the explanation that you're looking for, because people are gonna care less about you if you don't perform as well as you were doing prior. That happens after your career and during your career too. Maybe, I remember his time at Chelsea, his similarities is happening now, that, you know, that he left and now he's at Liverpool. He made a great name for himself and well deserved. But then you go and say something like this, you're never going to be bigger than a club. And the other part is as well, you had guys that did it prior to you. Like, I'll give an example. Let's say we just call a name that we all, Gerrard, for example. You think Gerrard was going to be bigger than that club? No. But everybody goes through the same steps. He has to understand it. I'm just sad to hear that. And he said, like, I earned my spot. That is what Stevie said. I earned my spot. We all been through that. Believe me, we all had that feeling that we earned our spot and we're supposed to be playing. Yes, I had that too. But clearly, I learned really quickly when I was at Ajax, they said to me, no, my friend, you will never be bigger than this team. So you either do it our way or you found a different way. And you quickly learn that. And I think he hasn't learned it, or he doesn't want to learn that it's not going to be like that. Because now they're talking about, okay, news are coming up. Maybe he's leaving, he's going to Saudi, or he's going to this. Why can he not just, you know, like fight his way back into the team and play the game that everybody wants to see and everybody enjoys? What Slot did wrong, what Stevie said, I will highlight that too, what Stevie said. Like one little thing that happened when the coach should have spoken to him, because he's that important of a player, because he clearly has two guys, Van Dijk and Salah, that are key figures in his team. He should have set them down. He shouldn't just, you know, not let him play. But that's a little bit too Dutch. In our country sometimes, it's more like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and you have to accept it. No, it doesn't work like that. That maybe works in Holland, but it doesn't work when we go over the water. You got to explain it to an individual and say to him, listen, my friend, I'm not liking what you are performing at the moment. The team needs stability, and you at the moment are not giving that to us. So we need to fight and keep it tight and maybe defend a little bit more. You're not our player that is going to defend that much because you don't score that many goals. So we can't take the risk with you. And then they have to play somebody else. And that's what's happening, because you think Salah is the best right winger they have? No. But it just helps the team balance at the moment.
Mark, I think you were at training this morning for Liverpool, right, before they jetted off to Italy for the Champions League game. What's the talk as to the future of Mohamed Salah here and whether he could be going in January?
Yeah, so I went down to training because the day before a Champions League game, you get open access to training, which is probably a bit unfortunate for Liverpool today. But yeah, we get the chance to see Mo Salah train, and he came out and he trained, and it seemed like a normal training session. But you know, the general kind of vibe around Liverpool was a couple of things really. First of all, there's a sense of confusion as to what happens next, because I think they want to use this next couple of games to buy themselves some time. He's not going to play against Inter. I'm pretty surprised if he figures in the squad against Brighton. I think Liverpool want to kind of keep him away from the team. And then he goes to the African nations, and that gives the club and Salah and his agent the time to work out what to do. But there was definitely a sense of people at the club and around the club feeling let down by Salah. Not because of what he said. I mean, Stevie will know this, but the Liverpool way kept being mentioned to me. It's not the Liverpool way to do this. It really isn't the Liverpool way. It's the modern way. It's the way that a lot of players do this now. But another thing that was put to me was that Arne Slot is having a difficult time right now, but within the club, he's really popular. He treats people with respect. He's honest with people. He's straight with people. And people feel that Mo Salah's let Arne Slot down. Now, just to pick up the point about Salah saying that he wasn't told about this, Arne Slot has said tonight before his press conference that he sat Salah down twice before the Leeds game to explain. So we have to kind of take both sides of the picture. I'd be amazed if Arne Slot didn't sit Salah down before the first game against West Ham and say, look, you're not playing. But we don't know. You know, Mo Salah said one thing, Arne Slot may say something else. But, you know, how's it going to end? I think it'll end with Mo Salah going to Saudi Arabia in January. I think, you know, there's a couple of kind of previous incidents that spring to mind. The first one is Cristiano Ronaldo. He went head-to-head with Man United 2 or 3 years ago. They let him go. They cancelled his contract and moved him on. But prior to that, I remember Wayne Rooney had a big situation with Sir Alex Ferguson at Man United, wanted to leave. Carlos Tevez at Man City, massive bust at Roberto Mancini. But the difference is, both Tevez and Rooney were at the peak of their powers at the time, and the clubs fought to keep them. Cristiano Ronaldo at United, less so. He was a guy that was past his best. And I think Mo Salah has got to that point with Liverpool. I think he's got to the point this season where those stats you showed earlier on, they show it. His numbers are way, way, way down on what they were last season. That's because, one, he's getting older, he's 34 next year, but also Luis Diaz isn't doing his running for him anymore, Darwin Núñez isn't doing his running for him anymore because they both left. We have the tragedy of Diogo Jota, who was another player that would do the running for Mo Salah. Alexander Isak has come in, and Florian Wirtz, and they have a different role. They don't play the same way. So the combination of Mo Salah's ageing process and teammates around him being less able or prepared to do the running for him has meant that he's no longer as effective. So I think ultimately that will decide Liverpool's judgment. They'll let him go.
It seems unfathomable to think of a club legend like Mo Salah leaving without saying goodbye properly to the Liverpool fans.
Unfortunately, although we do work with Disney, footballers don't get the chance to write their ending. It's what it is. Sometimes it ends the way you want it to, but very rarely does it end the way you want it to. You know, when you get older as a player, and as good as you've been, regardless of who you are, you don't get to choose when the end comes. And unfortunately, you're right. It doesn't look as though Mohamed Salah is going to get an opportunity. Certainly on the field, he may be able to walk out onto the field after the Brighton game, because I'm with Oggy. I think he's gone. And I think he's gone even more so because of what Oggy said about the manager actually sat him down twice and told them the reasons. So the fact that he actually came out and said what he did, having been told twice, is just, again, just ridiculous. Just the wrong thing to do. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It would be better if he'd played, if he'd scored, and then he goes off into the sun. But unfortunately, as we said, you don't get to pick. You don't get to pick how you finish at certain clubs.
To that point, Lionel Messi had to leave Barcelona without saying a proper goodbye. And if Lionel Messi can leave Barcelona without saying a proper goodbye, none of us are exempt from it. Listen, I'm with everybody on this. And I think there are a couple of things. The statement from Mo Salah was very self-serving, right? And I understand that, talking about your record at the football club and how much you've done for it, and you felt that as a result you deserved more. Fine. If you wanted to make this an argument or a popularity contest between you and Arne Slot, stick to that. Stick to what's happening between you and Arne Slot. But from the time you start to bring the club in, and listen, I've never played for Liverpool, but I can tell you, you as a player, you ask those fans to pick between player and club, you're going to lose every single time. Yeah. So maybe he had a chance of making a point if he kept it to, this is me and Arne Slot having a disagreement. You ask any fans to pick between two individuals. These Liverpool fans, you ask them to go against the club, I'm I'm sorry, that's a losing argument every single time.
The most outrageous thing
You
for
know
me,
what I also-
the most outrageous thing for me, sorry, Mario, he said was, the line was, after what I've done for this club. That's what makes me angry. That's what makes me angry. He will realise one day that it's the other way around. He will realise one day that all the adulation and all the hero worship and all the money and all the other things, you know why he's got all that? Because he went and played at Liverpool Football Club. And Liverpool coaching staff, fans, other players, along with him, made his career at Liverpool what it was. And that's the one line that really gets right up my nose. Right. All that I've done for the club, behave yourself.
Mario?
Yeah, because, you know, like also what I highlighted, when he came to Chelsea and it didn't work out for him, he goes to Liverpool and he did exactly what Chelsea would have loved to see. You know, someone like him and doing all those things, and it didn't work out. So, and then now, when he came out with this statement, also I'm thinking now, it's not only that he wants to play, or does Mo Salah wants to leave? That is my question now. Is it that's the reason why he maybe came out? Because he knows what's going to come out of this. He's a very intelligent man, and tactically he knows when he talks and the way he spoke, it's going to come out. Remember about the contract when he spoke? People straight away, there was already movement happening on the back scene for him. And now he comes out again, right? The timing is perfect. The African nation is going to come. I'm going to play anyway. So if I say something, I'm going to have a journey that I'm going to play. Now we both have to make a decision. I have to make a decision. The club has to make a decision. And maybe this guy's, he wants that.